Some things were never meant to be remembered. This video might be one of them. None of it matters, but it's all real. So here are 3 hours of useless information. Let's begin. It always happens the same way. You reach for the plug, one hand holding the cord, the other already searching for the outlet, and for a moment, it almost feels like it will reach almost, but not quite. The gap is always just a little too far. You pull harder, as if that might help. Angle the cord this way, then that. Try again. A few inches short, a small failure. So small it almost feels personal, like the cord knew, like it stopped just to make a point. You've seen it before, in hotel rooms, in garages, in the corner of every holiday-decorated living room. A lamp placed perfectly, almost. A tool that almost works where you need it. A phone that charges only if you don't move an inch. The length of the cord becomes a quiet battle. Not loud, just persistent. A tension that hums in the background. You move the thing closer, or the outlet, or you don't. You just stretch it and hope it holds. Most extension cords fall short by the same small margin. Not feet, just enough to be frustrating. A couple inches, sometimes less, but always enough that it changes how you use it, how you think about the space around it. The cords are standardized. Most come in 6, 10, or 25-foot lengths. Numbers that feel round and logical. Numbers that look good on packaging. But homes aren't built in even increments. Neither are offices, or patios, or the places we hide our plugs. So the cord becomes a guess, a silent wager. Long enough for where you think you'll need it. Never quite long enough for where you actually do. It's a small architectural mismatch. A tiny disagreement between product and space, and it's not new. Extension cords have existed for over a century. Long before cable management, before cordless vacuums, before furniture came with USB ports. The earliest cords were simple, just wires wrapped in rubber. No safety coating, no surge protection, just raw distance. But even back then, they came up short. People made do. They stacked books under plugs, balanced chargers on chairs, ran cords under rugs and across hallways. Always just one room or one reach, away from ideal. Over time, the cords improved. Thicker insulation, bright orange casings, coiled designs, but the reach never changed much. And the problem stayed small enough to ignore. It didn't demand a solution, just a workaround. Still, you feel it every time. The tiny lean, the twist of the wrist, the shifting of the lamp to the left instead of the right. The way the vacuum cleaner tugs back, reminding you where the cord ends. You could buy a longer one. People do, but longer cords are heavier. More expensive, they coil like snakes and take up space when not in use. So we compromise. We buy just enough, almost enough, and learn to live with the shortfall. There's a kind of memory in it now. Everyone has a story about a cord that didn't quite make it. A TV setup that had to change. A decoration that stayed unplugged. A day spent rearranging furniture because the wall won. And still, the cords keep selling. Still slightly too short, not on purpose. Just by design. Just by math. Just by the quiet truth that most problems don't need fixing. They only need adapting. Even now, in drawers and toolboxes across the world, there are cords waiting. Each one a few inches from perfect. Each one about to remind someone that space is rarely as convenient as it seems. You'll pull the cord again someday. Feel it resist. Feel it stop. That same small frustration. That same invisible line between what you wanted and what you got. A gap, measured not in feet, but in feeling. It doesn't shout. It doesn't complain. It just hums beneath the surface. One stretched wire at a time, almost reaching, almost there, and never quite enough. One foot steps forward, the other follows. You don't look down, you rarely do. But the moment you stop walking, there it is, the loop on your left shoe just a bit longer than the one on your right. Shoelaces, again just slightly off, you pull them tighter, tug one side, then the other. It feels balanced, it looks close enough, but as you move through the day, the imbalance grows. A few inches here, a sagging loop there, until one lace nearly touches the ground and the other floats just above it. You don't remember tying them unevenly. You never meant to, but it happens anyway. Not just today, always, nearly every pair, every time. The loops betray the knots, the symmetry doesn't hold. A silent unraveling, you only notice when you stop. Laces have been part of shoes for centuries. Leather strips, canvas strings, woven nylon, they've changed their look, their material, their thickness, but they've never fully behaved. Always slipping, always shifting, always coming undone. Even when you double knot them with care, the cause isn't dramatic, just friction. Motion, the slow tension of walking. A twist of the ankle, the tug of the tongue. Every step pulls, tugs, scrapes, and the laces react. One side tightens more than the other, one stretches just enough to make a difference. Some say it starts before the first step, in the tying itself. One lace pulled just a touch harder, one hand just slightly stronger. A knot that felt even, but wasn't. You wouldn't feel it. Not then. Not until later, when the imbalance shows its shape. Children notice it early. The uneven bow, the dragging tail. They ask about it. Try to fix it, and then forget. Adults stop asking. We tie. We go. And when the loops grow long on one side, we pull them back into place, just enough. The thing is, it's not really a problem. Your shoes still work. They don't fall off. The knot holds. The loops dangle. It's not perfect, but it's fine. And so it continues, without urgency, without reason to change. Some shoes come with different lengths of lace. One eyelet higher, one tighter turn. The lace isn't centered, but it's close, so you try to even it out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And still, you tie. You might think about it in the morning, while kneeling by the door. One loop first, then the next. The rhythm of the knot, practiced so many times your hands remember it better than your head does. A muscle memory passed down from childhood. There are tricks. People write guides, double back, loop the loose end, cross left over right. But none of them solve it fully. Not really. The laces always shift back, just enough to notice. Just enough to bother you. Never enough to fix. Even sports shoes, engineered for balance, grip, support, still fall prey. Athletes retie mid-game. Takers adjust on the trail. Runners pause mid-stride. The laces never settle for long, not even on the shoes designed to move the most. In a strange way, we've accepted it. Uneven loops, uneven lengths, just part of wearing shoes. A quiet imperfection built into the way we walk, the way we tie, the way we go about our day, adjusting something without needing to solve it. It's not failure, not even flaw, just nature. Laces are soft, shoes are stiff, feet are in motion, everything in tension, but not quite aligned. The knot is firm, but the shape is loose, always moving, always almost even, and you see it on others. The long loop on the left, the short one on the right, sometimes dragging like a lazy tail, sometimes curled like a sleeping leaf. And you know the feeling. You've walked in those same loops. Still, you keep tying them, day after day, loop over loop, pull, then pull again, knowing it won't hold perfect. Not for long, but that's never the point. It's enough to hold you for now, and maybe next time, the loops will land just right. Or maybe not, and maybe they'll slide again before lunch. Maybe you'll bend down to fix them, or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll just keep walking, in one step, then the next, and the laces trail behind you, just a little uneven, just the way they always do. There's something almost magical about the sound that floats through the air on a summer day. It's soft at first, a slow, steady tune. You hear it before you see anything, a melody that somehow promises sweetness. The sound of an ice cream truck, always the same, no matter where you are. Still, it's the song that catches your attention, isn't it? The song you recognize immediately. It's faint at first, but once you hear it, you know exactly what it means. It's the sound of a treat coming your way. It's like the world pauses for just a second, and everything slows down. Even now, as you think about it, you can probably hear it in your head, the tinny, repetitive melody drifting down the street. It's not loud or complex, just a simple tune that brings with it an undeniable promise. An unspoken agreement that something small, something cold is on its way. Without much thought, you begin to associate it with joy. It's the sound of childhood, of running out into the street with a crumpled dollar bill in hand, eager to buy a small piece of happiness. That song always the same, no matter the country, the city, or the neighborhood. The ice cream truck's song, your song. So why is it always the same? The tune is unmistakable, but it's not just about tradition, it's about recognition. A song that sticks in your memory, no matter where you are. It has to be simple, easy to catch from a distance, and it needs to trigger a certain response. A Pavlovian pull. The song itself is a carefully chosen one. It's designed to be light, airy, something you can hum even without thinking. You've probably done it before, that familiar jingle looping in your head long after the truck is gone. It stays with you, like a faint memory of something sweet, something fleeting. Still, it's curious, why does this song travel so far? It doesn't matter if you're in a bustling city, a sleepy town, or a remote village, the same song reaches your ears, promising the same cold reward. It's almost like the song has a life of its own, a tradition that doesn't care where it's heard, only that it is, even now. You might wonder how many ice cream trucks all over the world are playing this same tune at the same time. How many different hands are turning that familiar dial? How many people are listening as they stand there waiting? The connection feels universal, almost as if we're all hearing the same song. Without much thought, you probably didn't realize that the music is a key part of the process. Ice cream trucks don't just sell food, they sell an experience, and that song is a cornerstone of it, a reminder that something is coming, a signal to the senses, like the sound of distant waves calling you to the shore. The song has a certain simplicity to it. It's designed to travel. It doesn't need to be loud to be effective. In fact, if it were any more complicated, you might not recognize it from a distance. It needs to catch your ear, even if you're inside your house, even if you're not really listening. Still, you've probably never thought about how strange it is that this song is the same no matter where you go. It's like an unspoken rule, a tradition that has no real explanation, other than that it works. Maybe that's all that matters. Maybe we don't need to know why. It's just meant to be. Even now you can almost picture the truck rolling down your street. The sound, faint at first, but getting closer, it pulls at you, quietly beckoning you to come outside, to be part of this shared moment. The song, the truck, the cold ice cream, all of it wrapped up in one simple sweet sound. Without much thought, you might realize that this song has become a part of the landscape. It's not something you hear every day, but when it happens, it feels like everything aligns. You step outside, and for a moment the world is just a little simpler, a little more joyful. That song, always there, waiting. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it's gone. The truck, the song, the fleeting moment of joy, all that remains is the echo of the melody in your mind. Maybe you'll hear it again tomorrow, or maybe you'll never notice it at all. Either way, it will be there, quietly waiting for the next time. The soft click of a button, the hum of the television flickering to life. You barely think about it. Your fingers move almost of their own accord, pressing the buttons in sequence, navigating through channels, menus, and settings. The symbols on the remote are as familiar as your own hands. They're everywhere now, simple, straightforward, universal. But what makes them feel so natural, so easy to understand? The buttons, small, often understated, are all that stands between you and control. A few simple shapes, arrows, squares, and circles, and yet they hold power. They guide you through the digital world with barely a thought. Still, have you ever wondered how these symbols came to be? What made these shapes the ones we all recognize? These symbols, arrows pointing left and right, a triangle in the middle, a square with a line, somehow they became universal. They appeared on every remote without anyone really saying why. Even now, you can find them on almost every device. They're there, whether you're adjusting the volume or pausing a movie, and somehow, without explanation, they make sense. But why is that? How did these particular symbols come to be? There was no grand meeting, no single standard to guide it. No one decided that a triangle should mean play, or that a square should be pause. Yet somehow, that's what they became. It's almost as if they were chosen by an invisible hand, a collective understanding that formed over time. Each symbol simply fell into place, without much thought. Without much thought, we just started using them. And over time, they stuck. Their meanings became clear through repetition. The more you press that triangle, the more it becomes synonymous with play. It becomes a symbol, a language without words, with meaning crafted through experience, not rules. These symbols don't feel like they were created. They feel like they've always been here, a part of the fabric of our lives. We don't need instruction manuals to know what they mean. A circle, a triangle, an arrow, they have a kind of quiet power. You know them the moment you see them. But it's strange, isn't it? These symbols are so ingrained in our daily lives, yet no one ever set out to create a standard for them. They emerged without any official decree. No one needed to decide. They simply evolved, passed from one device to the next, from one remote to another. No questions asked. You might think it would be confusing, that with no official standards, these symbols might vary, change from brand to brand. Yet they don't. Instead, they became universal. A shared language without borders, without rules. It's as though we all agreed, somewhere, that this is what they meant, and that's enough. Still the question remains, why these symbols, why not others? There are so many shapes in the world. The circle could have been something else. The square could have had a different meaning. But somewhere, someone decided, or perhaps didn't decide at all, and this is what we've been left with. The arrows make sense, left, right, up, down. We know those, the triangle. It seems obvious now, but it didn't start that way. It wasn't a universal sign for play until it became one. Over time, its meaning was sealed. The square for pause, the circle for stop, simple. But how did they become so ingrained? Without much thought, we keep pressing. And the symbols keep guiding us, their meaning clear, like a whisper we've all learned to follow. They've become familiar, not because they were designed to be, but because they were used so much, over and over again. They became something we knew without trying. And still, they're with us. Quiet, dependable. They're on every remote, every device, in almost every corner of our digital lives, and yet they don't need to be explained. You see them, you know what they do. No instruction needed. It's like we all simply agreed on what they mean. It doesn't matter that there's no official guide. These symbols have become the standard by sheer force of familiarity. We understand them because we've seen them too many times to think otherwise. Each press of the button reinforces what we already know, over and over again. Maybe it's this lack of a defined standard that makes them feel so natural. They're not dictated by anything official. They just are, and in that simplicity, that lack of structure, they've found a home. They don't need to be perfect. They just need to be repeated, and they become a part of us. It's almost as if the symbols aren't there by design, but by sheer accident. And yet they work, without much thought. We understand them, in their simplicity. They've become a shared language, unspoken yet universally understood. No one ever planned for it to be this way, and yet here we are. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's something strangely comforting about the soft hum of a microwave, the kind that fills the quiet moments between tasks. The door, clear but not quite, the metal mesh faintly visible behind the glass, a design you might never question. But if you pause, there's something fascinating in that simple detail. Without much thought, you open the microwave door, the mesh screen shimmering faintly as the light from inside flickers. It's almost invisible, a part of the machine that blends into the background. But it's there, subtly woven into the door, like a secret kept between the microwave and whoever's standing in front of it. Still, when you look closer, there's something unusual about that mesh. Why not just solid glass, a window without interruption? Why that metal webbing behind the door? It's not something we often question, yet it serves a purpose, a quiet, unassuming task that helps make the microwave both functional and safe. Even now, when the microwave is humming and you're waiting for your food, you probably don't think about the screen at all. But it's quietly working, filtering the energy that makes the microwave function, keeping everything inside where it belongs, ensuring nothing escapes into the air around you. The metal mesh is part of a very specific design meant to protect you from the microwave's electromagnetic waves. Microwaves, the invisible energy waves that heat your food, are tricky things. They need to be kept contained, kept within the oven, where they can do their work. The mesh helps ensure they don't escape. Without much thought, you might glance at the door while you wait for your food to heat. The mesh seems insignificant, a minor feature that goes unnoticed, but if the mesh wasn't there, it would allow those electromagnetic waves to escape, potentially causing harm. The mesh keeps the waves contained, safely within the oven. It's fascinating how something so simple, so often overlooked, plays such an important role. The metal is usually made of a very fine mesh, designed in such a way that the holes are small enough to block the waves, but large enough to let you see inside. It's a balance between function and form, subtle yet vital. Even though you rarely notice it, the mesh also helps with the microwave's overall efficiency. It allows the oven to work more precisely, keeping the energy focused on heating the food rather than escaping. This ensures that everything heats evenly and safely without wasted energy. And the microwave keeps working its quiet magic. When you're standing there, watching the seconds tick down, you might also notice that there's no significant heat coming from the door itself. That's because the mesh keeps the microwaves inside, not allowing them to warm the external surfaces. The door stays cool, while the inside does its work, almost like a hidden shield. Still, there's something oddly peaceful about the way it all works. The mesh is a quiet reminder of how much design and engineering goes into the simplest things. Something as everyday as a microwave door becomes a small example of how small details can make a big difference, keeping us safe without ever needing to be noticed. Even when the microwave is off, the mesh screen remains a silent, almost invisible guardian. It's one of those everyday elements we've come to accept without ever questioning why. A detail so mundane that it could easily slip from our minds, yet essential to the smooth functioning of something we use nearly every day. Without much thought, you might even come to see that the mesh isn't just functional, but also strangely elegant in its simplicity. It's the quiet strength behind the everyday, a small element that holds everything together, keeping the appliance working properly and keeping you safe, even in the most routine moments. Perhaps you'll never stop to fully appreciate the mesh. Perhaps you'll never even think about it again. But it's there, quietly doing its job, like so many small details we take for granted. It doesn't demand attention, but it's always present, always serving its purpose with soft precision. And as the microwave hums one last time, as your food finishes and you open the door, the mesh stays in place, unseen but never forgotten. It simply waits. Quietly unnoticed, it does its job, ensuring that every microwave experience is safe, functional, and free from the dangers that could arise without it. Maybe you'll think about it next time you open the door, or maybe you'll forget it entirely. It doesn't matter. The mesh will remain, always there in its quiet, dependable way, doing exactly what it was made to do, and in the silence that follows, it will be as if it was never there at all. Your fingers hover lightly over the keys, the soft click of your typing filling the room. Your gaze drifts to the caps lock key, slightly apart from the others. It seems almost forgotten, tucked away on the far left side of the keyboard, unnoticed until it's needed, or maybe not needed at all. Still, it's there. A key that doesn't get the attention of Enter or Space, yet plays a small, quiet role. It holds a peculiar place in the world of modern computing, a key that at times feels like a relic of a time when typing was a far more deliberate art. Even now, when was the last time you used it? To shift from lowercase to uppercase with a tap of your thumb seems so simple, yet the caps lock key stands as a reminder of the way things once were. When did this switch come to be? And why? This key wasn't always a fixture. In the early days of typewriters, shifting from lowercase to uppercase letters was a manual affair. You had to physically push the shift key while typing, a cumbersome act that slowed down the flow of writing. But typewriters were changing. There was a need for something better. At first, the solution wasn't the caps lock key. Instead, there was a key called the shift lock. This key, once engaged, allowed the entire keyboard to stay in uppercase mode without holding the shift key. It was a useful feature for people who needed to type in all caps for extended periods of time. But still, even the shift lock wasn't a permanent solution. It was bulky and imprecise. The shift lock on typewriters often had an unpleasant side effect. Typing in all caps for long periods could lead to hand fatigue. So what was left was to find something simpler, something easier to use and less physically demanding. Without much thought, the idea evolved into the caps lock key, a shift from a clunky manual action to a single solitary key that could quickly switch your typing mode. By the time it made its way onto the first computer keyboards, it was already gaining traction, a practical solution to an everyday problem. But the question still lingers: why did this key become a standard? After all, there were other ways to switch between cases, like using the shift key. In part, it had to do with the design of early computer keyboards. As typewriters transitioned into machines that could store text electronically, designers sought to preserve familiar habits. The caps lock key quickly found a place on computer keyboards, not because it was essential, but because it was convenient. By the time personal computers became a household item, it had become second nature to see it there. The caps lock key had become as standard as Enter or Space. Even now, it's strange to think how this key has survived for so long. It doesn't do much. It simply shifts your letters to uppercase with a soft tap. It doesn't have the grand functionality of other keys, like Control or Alt. And yet, it remains. Why? Part of the reason for its staying power lies in something simpler. It's a legacy, a little piece of the past that stayed relevant as the world of typing evolved. As computer keyboards became more standardized, the caps lock key was left untouched, silently holding its ground while newer, more specialized keys were added. Still, there are moments when the caps lock key feels oddly misplaced, a remnant of a different time. In an age where typing in all caps is often reserved for urgent messages, the key sits there, waiting to be used, often neglected. But there was a time when it was the key to faster, more fluid writing. A strange pattern exists here. As technology advances, certain aspects of it are left behind, lingering like forgotten habits. The caps lock key isn't essential anymore, but it persists, just as the act of typing in all caps remains part of the digital lexicon. It's a holdover, familiar, but not always necessary. In truth, you've probably hit it by accident more times than you care to admit. One errant press, and suddenly your sentences are shouting at you. It's an odd sensation seeing your words blare in bold, uppercase letters. A subtle reminder that, in a world of constant change, some things simply don't change at all. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, the caps lock key resting there, waiting for a tap, a click, a forgotten moment. Or maybe you'll never think of it again. It doesn't ask for attention, yet it's always there, quietly holding on to its place in the pattern of keys. It simply waits, quiet, unnoticed. There's something strange about the way a pen cap sits on the end of a pen, a little plastic shield, something so small and unremarkable. But if you look closely, there's often a tiny hole in the top, a detail so easy to overlook. Yet it's there, quietly, for a reason. Still, it's almost like a forgotten feature, tucked away where no one really notices. The hole is small, almost imperceptible. You might have seen it countless times without ever thinking about it. It's as if the cap was made with a secret in mind, a design that wasn't just about keeping the ink from drying. Even now, you might pick up a pen and turn the cap over in your hand, curious about the tiny hole. It's there, but it doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't even demand your gaze. Yet that hole is not an afterthought. It's placed there on purpose, without much thought. You've probably never wondered why. Why is it there, this tiny opening in an otherwise smooth surface? It's so small that it almost feels accidental, but it isn't. It serves a quiet purpose. A safety feature, perhaps. The answer is hidden, simple, and far more important than you might expect. It's a curious thing, really. You would never guess that something so small could save a life. Yet that tiny hole in the pen cap, barely noticeable, is designed with a specific intention to prevent choking. For children, especially, a pen cap without that hole could become a dangerous object. Even now, as you think about it, the simple truth becomes clear. That little hole, hidden in plain sight, is there to allow air to pass through if the cap is accidentally swallowed. It's a life-saving feature, small enough to be overlooked, but crucial enough to be found on nearly every pen in the world. Without much thought, you've always accepted it. The design is so familiar, so everyday, but think of how often small details like this go unnoticed, shaping the world without making a sound. Something so seemingly insignificant, like a hole in a pen cap, is actually a safeguard against a danger many don't even realize exists. It's interesting, too, how easily we can forget the purpose of everyday objects. The pen cap is there to keep the ink safe, to prevent spills, and to offer a little convenience. But the hole, the tiny opening, is its true hidden purpose, an unspoken assurance of safety, quietly protecting us. The design isn't just about aesthetics or convenience. It's a reminder that sometimes safety comes in the most unassuming forms. It's not flashy, not obvious, but there, when you need it most. That small hole, so small it could be missed, is a subtle part of our everyday lives, working without being seen. Still, next time you pick up a pen, you might notice it again, that tiny hole, so easy to dismiss, quietly doing its job. A simple piece of plastic, designed with a careful thought in mind. It's easy to forget, yet always there, a small detail that keeps something much bigger safe. Even now, that small hole might fade from your mind, just as it always has. Yet once you notice it, it's hard not to think of it again. How many other small things in life are designed just as carefully, and yet go unnoticed until we stop, even just for a moment, to wonder? Without much thought, you continue on, moving past it. But the hole remains, quietly doing its job, guarding against a danger so small and invisible, you'll never even see it. A pen cap, just a small piece of plastic, working in the background of your life. Small, simple, and safe. The next time you hold a pen, or look at any small object designed to protect, you might wonder about the hidden details. The things that keep us safe, quietly and without recognition. Maybe you'll notice that hole, or maybe you won't. Either way, it'll be there, waiting in the background, keeping you safe. It doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't need it. It simply waits, quiet and unchanged. A soft, unspoken assurance. And maybe, just maybe, that's the best kind of safety there is. It's the shape that catches your eye first. The sharp angles, the bold lines, the stop sign. Always an octagon. You've seen them so many times, perhaps without even noticing their shape anymore. But there's something strangely comforting about the way it stands out in the world, a silent sentinel in a sea of curves. Without much thought, you might have realized that most traffic signs are simple, rectangular, circular. But the stop sign, it doesn't blend in. It demands attention, with its 8 sides cutting through the landscape. No other sign looks quite like it. It's a shape that feels like it was made to be noticed. Even now, as you drive, your eyes may instinctively lock on that octagon before anything else. Something about it makes you pause, makes you think for just a moment, even if you're miles away from the intersection. The octagon isn't just a shape, it's a signal, almost a command. You don't have to question it. Still, the reason for the stop sign's shape is less about its commanding presence and more about its practical use. It was carefully chosen, not just for visibility, but for clarity. In a world full of round and square shapes, the stop sign's 8 sides make it unmistakable. Its form is its function. The octagon is sharp. It's different. Even if you're not consciously aware of it, your brain notices the difference. It's a deliberate departure from the typical circle or rectangle. The stop sign stands as an anomaly in a world of familiar shapes, and that anomaly, however subtle, is what helps it stand out when needed most. It's easy to forget how much thought goes into these small details. The shape of the stop sign was never arbitrary. It wasn't designed to be decorative or interesting, but practical. The shape was chosen to make sure that no matter where you were or what you were doing, your attention would be drawn to it. Even now, when you see one from a distance, your mind recognizes it before your eyes even fully register the red and white. The shape speaks first, the color comes second. The octagon cuts through the noise of other road signs, making it easier to identify at a glance, no matter how busy the intersection may be. Without much thought, the stop sign's shape has become part of the rhythm of everyday life. It's something you don't even question. You simply see it and respond, without wondering why it looks the way it does. The octagon has become a symbol, not just of stopping, but of a routine, of a rule. Still, you might find yourself wondering how long it's been this way. The answer goes back to the early days of road signs. When stop signs first appeared, they were square. But even back then, there was something about their design that didn't quite work. The square shape blended in too easily with other signs. In the 1920s, the first stop sign was officially redesigned to be an octagon. The octagonal shape wasn't a flash of inspiration. It was a calculated decision, meant to give the sign a unique, undeniable presence. It needed to be different, something that wouldn't get lost in the background. The octagon was the answer. Even now, after decades of use, the design feels timeless. It's a shape that's not too complex, but not too simple either. It's balanced. The 8 sides feel even, offering a visual harmony that helps your brain recognize it more quickly. It's as if it's been designed not only for efficiency, but for a quiet elegance. And yet there's a strange comfort in its ubiquity. The stop sign doesn't need to be flashy. Its power comes from its consistency. Across cities, countries, continents, the stop sign remains the same. 8 sides, bold red, unmistakable. It's a piece of visual language that's shared by nearly everyone who drives, walks, or bikes. Still, you might notice that despite the stop sign's presence, it often doesn't feel like it's there. It blends so effortlessly into the landscape that you might pass one and never give it a second thought. But the moment you need it, it stands out. The octagon is always there, like a silent guardian in the background. You might wonder if the octagonal shape could ever be replaced. Could another shape work just as well? Perhaps a triangle or a diamond. But when you think about it, it's hard to imagine anything else. The octagon is now the very definition of stop. No other shape has ever quite captured that same sense of authority and clarity. Even now, you might drive past dozens of stop signs, and each time you'll recognize the shape before anything else. It's not about the color, not about the words. It's about the shape. The octagon speaks before you even consciously process it. It's a moment of communication that happens instantly, without you having to think. Still, the stop sign's role in our daily lives is quieter than it seems. We obey it without questioning. We stop, we go, we move through the rhythm of the world. And yet the stop sign remains constant, its shape, its form, its authority, all standing quietly in the background, guiding us through the flow of life. Maybe tomorrow, you'll notice the stop sign a little more. Maybe you'll catch yourself recognizing the octagon before you even get close. Or maybe you won't. It doesn't matter. The sign will always be there, and the shape will always be the same, waiting to guide you. Unseen, unquestioned. You sit down. The cushion creaks, the back slightly tilts, and your body settles into a form it's grown familiar with. The chair is fine, not too uncomfortable, not too supportive. You adjust the arms, the height, the back. It's just a chair after all. But there's something strangely permanent about it. It wasn't always this way. The chair you're sitting in, with its sterile plastic and padded seat, wasn't born out of necessity. It's more of a compromise, a middle ground between comfort and efficiency. Something designed to keep you in place, to keep you working, without drawing too much attention to itself. But it does. Even now you might not notice how ubiquitous it's become. How the office chair has settled into the background of modern life, always there, but never demanding to be acknowledged. It's a piece of furniture designed for one thing, to let you forget it's there, while still providing just enough comfort for a full day's work. Still, it's curious, isn't it? This chair, this symbol of productivity, isn't quite as efficient as it's meant to be. It's an object designed with compromise in mind. Too much comfort, and it's seen as a distraction. Too little, and it's an outright obstacle. And yet it's everywhere, becoming more or less the same, no matter where you sit. The chair you're in now, the one you think of as standard, is the result of decades of thought, but those thoughts weren't always on comfort. In fact, they were often on cost, on efficiency, on how little could be done to make it work without sacrificing too much. Something for the office, and for the worker, something that worked. It's a subtle thing, the office chair. It doesn't ask for attention, doesn't demand praise, it just is. The slight curve of the back, the wheels that never quite roll as smoothly as you wish they would. The arms that sometimes get in the way, but you've grown used to it. The shape of the seat, just right enough to make you sit still. Without much thought, you'd assume the office chair is the epitome of workplace design. But that's part of the trick. It blends in, making itself invisible, while it shapes your posture, your routine, your very day. It's a chair that's just comfortable enough to keep you seated, but never quite enough to make you comfortable. And yet, in its modesty, it's one of the most ubiquitous pieces of furniture. You can't escape it, from the most luxurious office to the most mundane cubicle. The office chair remains. It's the symbol of mediocrity, a silent agreement between you and the system. We'll make this work, just enough, but never more. Even now the corporate world clings to this compromise. A chair that says, we're here, but not too much. There are ergonomic chairs, of course, ones with lumbar support, adjustable heights, and fine-tuned comfort. But those are the exceptions, the outliers, the ones you see in the offices of those who can afford them. The rest are the same. Basic, functional, ordinary. In a way it's almost comforting. The chair doesn't change. It doesn't ask for you to adjust to it, only to accept it. A few small adjustments here and there, and you fit, just like everyone else. It's a universal object for a universal experience. The long hours, the steady rhythm of typing, the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. You might wonder when the office chair became so standardized, so tied to the idea of work itself. Its history is long, and like many things in modern life, it's a product of slow evolution. There were once grander designs, more ornate, more luxurious, but these gave way to something more humble, more pragmatic, something easier to mass-produce. And now, here you are, sitting in it. The chair has become so much a part of the experience, you don't question it. It's not something that inspires great thought or emotion, it just is. And in its simplicity, its ordinariness, it holds a certain power. It's there, supporting you, without making itself known. Quietly functional. The chair's mediocrity speaks volumes. It reflects the systems that built it, systems that demand just enough comfort to keep you productive, just enough support to make you feel like you're in control, while subtly encouraging you to stay where you are, to remain, to work. It is the chair of the modern worker, the silent partner. Without much thought, you'd assume it's just the way things have always been. But there's a soft, lingering discomfort in that assumption. Maybe the chair's real purpose isn't to support you physically. Maybe its role is deeper, more insidious. Maybe it's there to remind you that comfort and discomfort are a matter of balance. And still, you sit. Perhaps you shift slightly, adjust the backrest, or move the chair forward a little. But it's still the same chair, just as it's always been. The design is simple, but it's been honed to perfection. A small object of mediocrity, but one that defines the shape of your day. Perhaps it's time to acknowledge it, just for a moment. The office chair. Not the most comfortable seat, but one that works. It doesn't stand out, but it's always there, holding you in place. And as you sit, you realize it's not just a chair, it's a symbol, a quiet presence, never asking for more, but always there. There's something subtle about the way a zipper slides shut, the teeth clicking together with perfect precision. It's a smooth, almost silent motion, one we hardly think about. Yet, it wasn't always so neat, so predictable. The idea of zipping things up was once much more awkward, more clunky, in name and function. Still, if you look at the zipper, it's easy to forget how much thought went into its design. You pull it up, it locks into place, and you're done. Simple, but once, it was supposed to be something else entirely. A name that never quite caught on, but that almost defined it instead. Without much thought, you probably assume the zipper has always been called the zipper. It's so easy to imagine. After all, it's a word that feels right, doesn't it? Zipper. It's smooth. It slides off the tongue as effortlessly as the mechanism slides into place. But that wasn't the first name for it. Even now, it's hard to imagine it being anything else. But when the zipper was first invented, it wasn't called a zipper at all. It was nearly named something else, something far more rigid and mechanical, clasp locker. It was a name that sounded more like a contraption, a lock, something formal and heavy, a far cry from the word we know now. Still, imagine if that had stuck. Clasp locker sounds like something you'd find in a factory or a storage unit, not a jacket or a pair of jeans. It would have changed how we think of it. The sound, the simplicity, the action, none of it would fit with a name like that. It's almost too stiff. A moment in time, the zipper, as we know it, was born out of experimentation. Back in 1893, an inventor named Whitcomb Judson filed a patent for his clasp locker, a mechanism meant to fasten shoes. It was far from the smooth glide we're familiar with today. It was more awkward, more cumbersome. It needed refinement. Even now, it's hard to imagine the zipper as anything but the sleek, simple solution it's become. Yet those first attempts weren't so clean. The clasp locker had to be improved upon, redesigned, to get it just right. It was a slow process, a series of trial and error, but with each tweak, the mechanism grew closer to what we recognize today. Without much thought, you might think that the clasp locker simply failed, its name forgotten in the shuffle of time. But that's not quite it. It was refined. It became more efficient, more fluid. Slowly, it transformed into something more than a locker and began to feel more like the zipper we know and rely on. Still, there's something poetic about how the name clasp locker gives way to the simplicity of zipper. The word zip is quick, it's sudden, it's like the action itself. A zipper doesn't clunk or clatter, it's smooth like a soft rush of air. It makes sense that zip was the name that stuck. Even now you can feel it, the difference between the two words. Clasp locker is heavy, clunky, stiff. It feels like something that should be locked up, something that needs a key. But zipper feels like a release, a motion, a smooth action that moves as naturally as you breathe. It just fits. Without much thought, we've come to take the zipper for granted. We pull it up, we pull it down, and we move on. The action has become automatic, a small part of everyday life. But when you pause, when you think about it for a moment, you realize how strange and fascinating it really is. And yet, it all almost didn't happen. The zipper might have been just another forgotten idea, lost in time, never becoming the simple solution we now know it to be. Instead, it was perfected, simplified, and named something that perfectly matched the smoothness of its function. A quiet shift, unnoticed but necessary. Still, clasp locker lingers in the background, an odd echo of what could have been. It's easy to imagine a world where we're still calling zippers clasp lockers, a world where the smooth, effortless action of a zipper is weighed down by a name that doesn't quite match. It's strange how names shape our perception of things. Without much thought, you probably haven't given the name much attention. But imagine if it had stayed, clasp locker, the zipper, a simple quiet tool in our lives, would have felt so different. Its name would have changed how we felt about it, how we used it, how we thought about it, and yet it's the simplicity of the zipper that makes it so remarkable. The easy flowing nature of the word matches the function perfectly. A zipper is a fastener, yes, but it's also something that moves, something that slides and locks with a fluid motion. The name feels like it's always been meant to fit. Even now, when you run your fingers along the teeth of a zipper, you're reminded of how perfectly the mechanism works. No matter the name it might have had, it found its place. Clasp locker could never have captured the essence of the zipper. Its simplicity is its strength. A small thing, a small change. But in those tiny shifts, in the quiet adjustments, we find something fascinating. A name can shape everything. Our experience, our expectations, even how we use an object. The zipper, in all its simplicity, has traveled a long way to become the smooth, effortless thing it is. Maybe tomorrow, when you zip up your jacket or your bag, you'll notice the smooth slide, the click of the teeth, or maybe you won't. Either way, it will still be there. The zipper, simple and functional, moving through our lives without a second thought. And somehow that's exactly the way it should be. Maybe the best things are the ones that feel like they've always been. It's a small switch, no bigger than a button, yet it holds the key to a comfort we often don't think twice about. The ceiling fan, spinning quietly above, has a direction setting. You've probably adjusted it once or twice, never questioning its purpose. But what does it really do? The switch itself isn't much to look at. It sits innocuously, often hidden on the fan's body, easy to overlook, yet it controls something far subtler than the fan's speed. It dictates the direction of the blades, which in turn shapes the flow of air, shifting the very temperature of a room. Still, the reasoning behind it might not be immediately obvious. Why does the direction matter? You might expect a fan to simply blow air any way it pleases, but here lies the logic. In one direction, the fan pushes air down, creating a cool breeze. In the other, it circulates the air, bringing warmth. Without much thought, we adjust the switch depending on the season. In summer, the blades spin counterclockwise, the air is forced downward, and a breeze cools your skin, making the room feel refreshingly chilly. It's simple, but in winter, the switch is flipped, and the blades spin clockwise, pulling the cool air up toward the ceiling. Even now, this logic might seem subtle, almost hidden. It's a quiet detail that shifts the temperature of your room. The fan, like a gentle force, subtly moves the air to your benefit. The change in direction doesn't make the fan any faster or louder, but it changes the way it interacts with the room. Perhaps you've noticed it during those cold mornings when the air feels thick and still. The switch, gently adjusted, seems to stir the air just enough to bring warmth down from the ceiling. It's not something we often think about. It's a small change, yet it makes the room feel just right, without any effort. But here's the odd thing. The logic behind the direction switch isn't intuitive at first. It's the sort of detail that, once understood, feels like a small secret. Why would you need to pull the cold air up in winter? Isn't the goal to keep it down? Yet the ceiling's heat needs to be pushed down for warmth to settle. The truth is, air behaves in strange ways. Hot air rises naturally, which is why in colder months it tends to pool near the ceiling. The fan's clockwise spin gently disturbs that stillness, pulling the warm air back down. It's an invisible cycle of heat that we rarely notice, but it's always there, working quietly. It's strange how something so small, so simple, can have such a significant effect. A fan, spinning at a comfortable pace, pushing and pulling air in ways we can't always feel, but can certainly notice. There's a quiet satisfaction in the knowledge that with just a flick of a switch, the room shifts to a new temperature. without much effort, we adjust the fan, knowing exactly what it's doing. The air swirls differently, depending on our need. In summer, it provides a cool breeze, a relief from the heat. In winter, it's an invisible force, circulating warmth, making the space feel more comfortable, even as the temperature drops. We don't think much about it, but the fan becomes part of the rhythm of the room. It's there, day after day, spinning away. Its direction changes, yes, but we rarely notice how much it influences the temperature. The quiet hum of its blades is almost like a backdrop to our daily lives. Yet it's so essential, the ceiling fan becomes a constant companion to the seasons. In the heat of summer, it's a gentle companion, keeping us cool and refreshed. But as the weather shifts, so too does the fan, without us ever really needing to think about it. Its quiet service continues, unnoticed, but always present. It's odd, isn't it? The way something so small can become so automatic. The fan switch, barely noticed, plays a key role in the comfort of our homes. Without it, we might never understand the subtle dance of hot and cold air, or how easily we can manipulate it with just a flick of the wrist. As the fan spins, back and forth, its direction shifts as we need it to. A simple switch, a small adjustment, and yet it's enough to make the room feel different. Maybe you'll notice it next time you adjust the fan, how effortlessly it changes the flow of air, how easily it shifts the temperature around you. Still, it's easy to forget, isn't it? The subtle effects of the fan's direction, it's there, working silently in the background, keeping the air moving, keeping the room comfortable. You might not always think about the logic behind it, but the fan's quiet task remains, adjusting the space to your needs without making a sound. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. It's a small thing, easy to miss. You step into a room, ready for the light, and with one motion, you flip the switch. But have you ever stopped to notice how it feels? The way the switch flips down in some places, up in others. It's odd, isn't it? Still, there's something oddly familiar about the way switches feel when you flip them. You don't think much about it, but the motion becomes so automatic, it's as if your hand knows exactly where to go. No hesitation. But what happens when that hand moves to the opposite direction? Even now, you can probably picture it in your mind, the slight change in motion. You're in a new place, and for a moment, the switch doesn't respond the way you expect. It flips the other way. Something so simple, yet it feels unfamiliar, like the rhythm of a song you haven't heard in a while. Without much thought, you might assume it's the same everywhere, a universal design, but it isn't. In some countries, light switches flip downward to turn the lights on. In others, they flip upward. It's such a small difference, but it makes a difference nonetheless. You wonder why it's that way. The first thought might be about convenience, about which direction feels most natural. But it's not that simple. The choice is often rooted in culture, in the preferences of the people who design these simple objects. Something as ordinary as a light switch can tell you a lot about a place. Still, it's curious how something as small as a flip can differ from place to place. It's like a subtle marker of identity, a detail you would never think twice about, but once you notice, it's like you can never unsee it. Suddenly, the act of turning on the lights feels different. Even now, think about it. What direction does your hand move when you flip a switch? Does it move up or down? The way you instinctively do it, without even thinking, is tied to the place you grew up. A habit that's ingrained, as natural as tying your shoes. Without much thought, this difference seems almost insignificant. After all, the light still comes on. But there's something about that flip, that subtle motion, that feels oddly comforting when it's done, the way you've always done it. It's the rhythm of your day, unnoticed but ever present. The origins of this difference might be practical at first. The way switches were wired, how they were mounted, all influenced how they were flipped. But over time, as cultures developed their own preferences, the habit stuck. What began as a simple choice became a quiet reflection of how people interact with the world. Still, there's something fascinating about how little details like this can persist across generations. The same way a family might have a certain way of folding towels or a preferred type of bread, a small shift in the direction of a switch becomes a part of the landscape, a soft, invisible marker of home. Even now, imagine stepping into a room with the switch facing the opposite direction. There's a brief hesitation, a small moment of uncertainty. It's the same light, but it doesn't feel the same. The rhythm is different, a small thing, yet it calls attention to how deeply ingrained our habits are. Without much thought, you might wonder if anyone else even notices. Perhaps, in another country the direction of the switch feels as natural as the one you grew up with. But in that moment, you realize that what you thought was universal is in fact just another detail of where you've been. The motion of flipping a light switch is something we all do, many times a day. But it's never just about the light. It's about the action, the simple gesture of turning something on, of bringing light into a room. The direction is just a small part of a much larger experience. Still, you may never think about it again, once the switch is flipped and the light fills the room. But there's something quietly beautiful about how these small, almost imperceptible details define our world. The subtle differences, the small choices we make without ever realizing it. Even now, the rhythm of your hand moving upward or downward feels familiar. The light, as always, floods the room. It's nothing big, nothing worth a second thought. But in that fleeting moment, you feel it, a small gesture that has carried across time, across countries, uniting and dividing us, all at once, without much thought. It becomes part of the background. The light is on, and that's all that matters. But maybe next time, when you flip the switch, you'll pause, just for a second, and wonder why it's the way it is. Maybe it's not important, but maybe it's worth noticing. Maybe tomorrow, you'll notice it again, or maybe you won't, but the next time you flip a switch, you'll remember. It's just a small detail, but it's one that quietly stays with you, like the rhythm of your daily routine, and it's in that rhythm that the world feels a little more familiar. There's something unmistakably familiar about the way a CD tray clicks open. The smooth slide, the gentle resistance before the release, the soft click as it locks into place. It feels deliberate, almost mechanical, like the motion itself is part of a larger promise, one that extends beyond music or data. Still, think back to the first time you saw one. It wasn't just a simple tray, was it? It felt different. Sleeker. More futuristic than anything you had encountered before. The plastic was glossy, almost too shiny, the edges smooth, the design streamlined. It was a new way of thinking about technology. Even now, when you place a CD into its tray, you might not realize that its design was carefully crafted to give you that feeling. It wasn't just about holding a disc, it was about presenting the idea of something cutting edge, something advanced. The tray wasn't just functional, it was meant to impress. Without much thought, you might assume that CD trays were built for practicality, and they were in part, but behind their smooth surfaces and reflective finishes, there was a deep concern with perception. Every curve, every angle was designed to convey the feeling of the future, a sleek, modern promise of what's to come. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, when CDs first started to replace vinyl and cassette tapes, they didn't just represent a new format, they represented a new way of thinking about music and technology. The CD tray, in its simplicity, became part of that story, a small detail, but one that added to the experience. Still, the design of these trays was revolutionary at the time. The idea was not just to create a place to hold a disc, but to create an object that felt significant. Something that could be placed proudly on a shelf, something with clean lines and a shine that made it stand apart from anything that had come before it. Even now, you can almost see it in your mind's eye, the disc nestled perfectly inside the tray, the small metallic clips that kept it secure. But it wasn't just about holding the disc, it was about creating an impression, about making the act of inserting a CD feel like something more, something important, even though it was a simple task. Still, there was a certain magic to how that tray opened, wasn't there? The way it glided out with just the right amount of resistance, as if the technology inside the machine was responding to your touch. It wasn't just plastic and metal, it was a promise quietly unfolding before you. Without much thought, you might recall the joy of opening a new CD for the first time. The shiny disc inside, the satisfying click of the tray as it snapped shut. It felt futuristic in a way that few objects did back then. The design was part of the allure, adding an extra layer of excitement to something as simple as playing a song. Even now, there's a reason that CD trays often felt so different from other objects of the time. When technology was moving toward compactness and portability, the CD tray stood out with its bulk and its deliberate motion. It was almost as if it was saying, "This is something more," a physical reminder of the future waiting to be experienced. Still, those trays were everywhere, weren't they? In cars, at home, at work, and each time they opened, you were met with that quiet, satisfying sound. That design wasn't just about holding a disc, it was about offering an experience. A moment where the object felt like it belonged to something larger than itself. Even now, when you see a CD tray, there's a subtle sense of nostalgia. The shiny plastic, the smooth, clean edges. It's a reminder of a time when technology felt new and full of possibility. It was a time when we could hold the future in our hands, and that feeling was often captured in something as simple as a tray. Still, consider how this little object became so iconic. It wasn't just functional. It wasn't just about the disc. It was about conveying something deeper, a sense of innovation and newness. A feeling that the future was arriving, quietly, subtly, and often in the form of something small and sleek. Even now, when the CD tray has largely faded from everyday use, its design still lingers. Even in the age of digital downloads and streaming, the memory of that click, that smooth opening, still feels like a gateway to something new. A moment that made you feel as if the world was moving forward, just a little bit faster. Still, think about how we used to open those trays with anticipation. The first time you placed a CD in the tray, it felt like an event. That brief moment of interaction, the subtle elegance of the design, it made the process feel special, as if technology had reached a new peak. Even now, in retrospect, it's clear that CD trays were designed with more than just utility in mind. They were designed to impress, to make us feel that the technology inside was something worth experiencing. It wasn't just about listening to music, it was about connecting with the future in that small, significant way. And tomorrow, if you happen to come across a CD tray again, you might pause, or maybe not. It will still be there waiting, unchanged. A quiet reminder of a time when technology in all its sleekness promised something new, and for a moment at least, made us feel like we were holding the future in our hands. There's a certain hum that fills the air, soft but steady. It's not loud, just present. You might not notice it right away, but it's there, just under the surface. It comes from somewhere nearby, perhaps a drinking fountain. The sound of water, moving in a way you didn't expect. It's subtle, isn't it? Not the rush of water you might imagine, but a low, steady hum. You take a sip, and for a moment, you almost forget it's there. The water flows freely, but it's the hum that lingers, vibrating quietly in the background. It's something you've heard before. Still, have you ever wondered where it comes from? Why some fountains hum while others don't? It's not something we usually think about, but once you notice, it's hard to ignore. It becomes almost a companion, like the quiet murmur of a conversation that's just out of reach, but never quite silent. You've probably encountered it in the most unexpected places, a school hallway, a public park, or a quiet office building. In some fountains, the hum is almost comforting. In others, it's more pronounced, a little jarring, like a distant electric buzz. It's odd, almost like the fountain has its own voice. Without much thought, you turn away, letting the sound fade into the background. You go about your day, but the hum lingers, waiting for the next encounter. The next fountain that will reveal its soft secret. It's a small thing, easily overlooked, but once noticed, it feels like something familiar. Even now, the hum is there, just below the noise of your daily life. It's a quiet, mechanical hum, produced not by the water itself, but by the way the water moves through the pipes. It's the way the pressure builds, the water hitting the metal with a subtle force. It creates a vibration that we hear, but there's more to it. It's not just about the water, it's about the fountain itself. Some fountains are built with more delicate mechanisms, the metal parts vibrating in a way that lets the sound slip through. The design of the nozzle, the angle at which the water flows, all of it plays a part in the sound we hear. You might think that something as simple as a drinking fountain would be quiet. After all, it's just water, right? But there's a pattern to these hums. They don't happen randomly. Some fountains, with their smooth curves and clean lines, seem to hum more than others. It's almost as if they've been designed for it. Still, even if you don't think about it, you've heard it before. That hum that seems to be everywhere. It's part of the world we've created, a small, gentle reminder that even the simplest things have a deeper rhythm. A rhythm we've come to expect, even if we don't always recognize it. There's something comforting about it, though. Don't you think? The hum is a part of the background noise, like the buzz of a fan or the ticking of a clock. It's not intrusive, but it's there, marking time. Each fountain, with its hum, becomes a small piece of the day, a tiny anchor to the world around you. Without much thought, you've begun to listen for it. It's not always easy to hear, but once you notice it, it becomes part of the landscape, like the way the light changes at dusk, or the way the wind rustles the trees. It's subtle, but it's always there, if you listen closely enough. And yet some fountains hum louder than others. Some fountains hum so loudly that they fill the air, turning a simple drink of water into something more. The hum becomes almost a presence, a gentle but insistent companion that seems to have its own rhythm, its own life. And somehow it feels right. Even now the hum continues, a quiet pulse beneath the surface. You can't always hear it, but it's there, like the background noise of an old memory. A soft mechanical hum that you might have noticed once, but never thought about until now. And now, you can't stop thinking about it. It's strange, isn't it, that something as simple as a drinking fountain could hold so much rhythm. A small, unremarkable object in the world, yet capable of creating such a gentle, constant hum. Maybe it's just the way the world works, small things, unnoticed, but full of hidden details, waiting to be discovered. Still, it doesn't need to be explained, does it? The hum is just part of the fabric, part of the everyday things that fill our lives. It's there, not asking for attention, just humming along, waiting for the next drink, the next moment of silence before you press the button and take a sip. And so, the fountain hums on, waiting, just as it always does. Without much thought, we accept it, like a familiar tune. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's a moment, subtle and almost imperceptible, when the dishwasher shifts, the hum fades. The water stops sloshing. For a brief second, everything is quiet. If you're close enough, you might hear a soft click. That's it. The machine has decided it's done. But how and why then? Still, it's not something we think about often. The dishwasher just works, doesn't it? You load it up, press a button, and hours later it's finished. But the way it knows when to stop, when to declare the job done, is a strange little dance of sensors and timers we rarely acknowledge. Without much thought, we trust that the dishwasher has done its job. But there's a system at play, a quiet choreography that begins long before that soft click. It starts when you press start, when the machine takes its first breath of water, and a carefully calculated process begins. And then, when it's ready, it ends. Even now, if you listen closely, you might hear the quiet whir of a final rinse. The machine isn't just stopping randomly. It's checking, sensing, making sure the dishes are clean. How does it know? Well, it doesn't. Not exactly. It's a process of measured time, water temperature, and sometimes even the sound of the water itself. The dishwasher has several tools at its disposal: timers, sensors, and temperature regulators. Some machines use sensors to detect the turbidity of the water, measuring how clean it is. The clouded water means there's still food or grime. The clearer the water, the closer the dishwasher gets to its done moment, but not always. There are also timers, simple old-fashioned devices that track the progress of the wash cycle. The dishwasher knows, for example, that it must run hot water for a set period, rinse, and then dry. The exact time it takes varies slightly from load to load, but the machine has a formula, one it follows methodically. Still, there's something almost mechanical in the way it operates. No matter the brand, the process is surprisingly uniform. The sensors calculate the temperature, the flow, and the time it takes to remove all traces of soap and food. Once it's satisfied, it signals the end, and the cycle concludes with a quiet thud. Even the drying cycle is built with precision, ensuring that the heat doesn't linger too long, or the dishes stay damp. The heat evaporates the last bit of moisture, leaving everything dry and ready to unload. It doesn't rush, it simply knows. It's all about timing, pressure, and waiting until the balance is just right. Without much thought, you might unload your dishes. You don't question the machine, it's just done. But if you were to stand beside it, you might start to notice the little pauses, the slight shifts in its rhythm, the changes in sound. That's when the machine tells you it's nearing completion, without words, without fuss. It's not as if the dishwasher feels its work is done. Instead, it's all calculated, an equation designed to ensure that everything, the water temperature, the pressure, the duration, aligns perfectly. When these elements reach their peak, the machine knows it's finished. It just doesn't need to do anything more. Even now, when you press start, you don't question it. The machine sets itself to work, understanding the intricate balance of each step. The rinse, the wash, the drying. It all happens in sync, and you don't notice how carefully timed each phase is. It simply works, following its invisible script. Without much thought, you might forget that the dishwasher isn't simply a passive box of convenience. It's a network of sensors and timers, each one fulfilling its role to ensure your dishes are clean and dry, all without you ever needing to intervene. Its silent dance is constant, precise, and always there, even when you aren't looking. The next time you open your dishwasher and hear that soft click, take a moment. The machine has made its decision. It's done, but it didn't simply stop. It waited for the right moment, balanced all the small factors, and then gently marked the end. It doesn't rush, it just knows when it's time. And after that quiet sound, the machine rests. It doesn't ask for attention, and you might forget about it until the next load. But each cycle is a carefully crafted rhythm, built from the hums and clicks that guide you through the task. It simply waits, and when it's done, it's done. Your fingers rest lightly on the keyboard, the familiar hum of the machine filling the room. As you type, your eyes occasionally drift to the Shift key, something that has always been there, so close, so essential. Yet, if you look closely, you'll see a symbol, small and often unnoticed. It's a forgotten relic. The symbol on the Shift key isn't just any mark. It's the symbol of an upward-pointing arrow, one that feels almost too obvious to notice. Still, it's there, a small detail. When you press the key, it's a reminder that this moment, this motion, has a hidden history. Even now, most people don't pay attention to it. The arrow seems so simple, so intuitive. You press it, and letters change case, but that small upward arrow holds a secret, a nod to a time when typing was an art, a skill, and the keyboard itself was a machine of precision and purpose. The arrow is more than just a visual cue. It's a symbol of shifting control, of elevating one letter from a small, humble form into something grander. For many, it's simply part of the typing process, a tool used without much thought, an invisible part of the rhythm of writing. Yet, it wasn't always this way. In the early days of typewriters, the Shift key wasn't just about capitalizing letters. It was a mechanism, a lever of sorts, that physically moved the typewriter's hammers. Those hammers would strike the ribbon and create the letter on paper. It was a mechanical shift, literal, not just figurative. Still, there was something missing. For a while, there was no visual indication of this shift. It was a simple mechanism, invisible to the eyes of the typist. When typewriters evolved, they needed a way to communicate this change, this moment of elevation, without interrupting the flow of typing. The arrow was born. The symbol of the upward arrow wasn't a random choice. It represented movement, direction, ascent, a reminder that pressing the shift key elevated the text, just as a hammer striking paper could make a letter rise from the flatness of the page. It was about changing form, about making something stand out. Even now, the symbol lingers on the key, though its original meaning has faded. The machines have become more complex, but the arrow remains, quietly serving as a reminder of its mechanical past. The arrow still marks the moment when you push the key, shifting from lower to uppercase, but its story is now forgotten. What's strange is how little attention the symbol gets. It's there, almost unnoticed. It's not as flashy as the Enter or Space key. It doesn't command your focus. It sits quietly, waiting for you to press it, never demanding much. And yet it carries within it the history of typing itself. Perhaps it's because we've grown so used to it. We've become so comfortable with the action, with the shift from lowercase to uppercase, that we forget the precision, the mechanics, that brought us here. The arrow is just a symbol now, a simple indicator of a change that happens so quickly we barely notice it. Still, there's a quiet elegance to the design. The small upward-pointing arrow is a subtle nod to a past that few ever think about. It's not just a key, it's a key with a history of machines that clicked and clacked, that turned letters into words, and words into stories. What would typing be without that small shift, without the arrow to guide us? It's almost impossible to imagine. We'd still be writing, but it wouldn't feel quite the same. The arrow represents more than just an action. It's a piece of a story, an invisible thread that ties past to present, that connects all of us who type. Without much thought, you press the key again, and the arrow is gone. The lowercase letters become uppercase with a single motion, a shift that feels so seamless, it's easy to forget it ever happened. The symbol may fade, but the act remains. The rhythm of typing continues, as it always has. The more you think about it, the stranger the arrow becomes. It's so small, so simple, a part of every keyboard, yet hardly ever questioned. It feels almost absurd that something so quiet could hold so much significance, and yet here it is, waiting to be pressed, never asking for more than a gentle touch. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, when your fingers dance across the keys, or maybe you won't. It will be there, of course, waiting for the next shift, the next movement, a symbol of a time when the typewriter was king, a reminder of the small moments that pass us by without ever making a sound. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. The smell of the air is thick with anticipation. You step onto the shuttle, the soft hum of the engine filling the space around you. The seats, cold and smooth, greet you with a stark simplicity. Plastic. Just plastic. Never anything more. They don't ask for comfort, but they serve their purpose. Still, it's strange. Why does it have to be plastic? All around you there's the warmth of people, the bustle of passengers readying for their next journey. And yet the seats remain unyielding, hard, and uninviting. They offer no softness, no cushion, just that hard, smooth surface that feels almost necessary. Even now, you might sit in one of those seats, your back pressed against the slick material. The plastic feels cool beneath your fingertips as you adjust your position. The discomfort lingers in the air, but there's something about it that doesn't quite feel out of place. Maybe you've never even thought to question it. Without much thought, you accept it. Plastic is simply part of the ride, an unspoken agreement between the airport shuttle and the passengers. It doesn't need to be comfortable. It doesn't need to be anything but functional. And in a way that's the point, isn't it? To get you where you need to go, quickly. The reality is, the shuttle ride is just a means to an end. It's a brief moment in your journey. You don't need to sink into plush cushions or feel the comfort of a luxurious chair. You just need to get from point A to point B. The plastic seat does that, and then some, but still there's something interesting about it. This simple material, so ubiquitous in transportation, seems to appear everywhere almost like a quiet rule. Plastic is durable. It's easy to clean. It doesn't require much maintenance. In a space like the airport shuttle, where people are constantly in and out, it simply makes sense. Even now, as you watch the other passengers, you realize something. The shuttle is built for movement, for practicality, not for relaxation. People don't linger in these spaces. They're in transition, their minds already elsewhere. The plastic seats are a reflection of that. The idea that this is a space for passing through, not staying. Without much thought, you continue your ride. The seat beneath you feels like part of the scenery, unnoticed in its simplicity. It's not designed to stand out, not designed to be special. It's just there. Functional, practical. The focus is always on the destination, never the seat that carries you there. Perhaps that's why the plastic works so well. It's unremarkable. It's not inviting, nor is it uninviting. It simply exists in the background, part of the unnoticed details that allow the system to function. It holds you for just a moment before releasing you into the next part of your journey. And maybe that's exactly how it's meant to be. The shuttle ride isn't about comfort or luxury. It's about the movement, the flow. The plastic doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't try to comfort you. It simply gets you from one place to the next, and when the ride is over, it's forgotten. Even now, as you sit back, the plastic seat remains. It doesn't demand a second thought, and that's perhaps the most perfect thing about it. It's there, in its simplicity, doing its job without fanfare. It doesn't linger in your memory, because it doesn't need to. It just serves its purpose, quietly. Without much thought, you might stand and leave the shuttle, stepping into the next phase of your journey. The seat behind you remains untouched, just as it was. The ride continues for the next passenger, and then the next. The plastic seat will be there, always waiting, always ready to be used. It doesn't make a sound, and yet it's always present, a small part of your experience, a detail unnoticed but essential. And when the shuttle pulls away, you forget about it. It fades away with the rest of the ride, like a detail too small to hold your attention for long. Quiet, simple, ever present. Maybe you'll notice it next time, or maybe you won't. Either way, it's there, doing its job without asking for anything in return. The plastic seat always waiting, always in place, a silent partner in your travels. It remains until it's no longer needed, quietly disappearing into the background of your journey. There's something about the sound of ice cracking, isn't there? The sharp sudden break as a cube is released from its mold. It's a small moment in time, almost forgotten, but full of the promise of something cool, something refreshing. And yet the shape of the ice cube itself has quietly evolved over the years. Still, when you picture an ice cube, you might think of a simple block, maybe a perfect square or a rectangle, like the ones from the trays you used to see in old kitchens. Those trays, once ubiquitous in freezers, have changed over time, shaping how we experience this tiny, ordinary thing. Without much thought, the ice cube tray used to be a symbol of convenience. A thin plastic or metal tray filled with water, placed carefully in the freezer, waiting for that unmistakable sound, the gentle snap of ice detaching from its mold. It was always so satisfying, the way those cubes came out with the perfect crack. Even now you can still find those familiar trays, the ones with individual compartments, a simple grid of squares that produce neat, rectangular cubes, but something about them feels outdated. Maybe it's the way they sometimes stick to the ice, or how they seem to take up too much space in the freezer, always an awkward shape among the frozen vegetables and leftovers. Still, over the years the shape of the ice cube tray has changed. The square and rectangular designs have given way to more practical and creative molds. Plastic trays with a new flexibility, silicone trays that let you pop out ice with ease, and even novelty shapes like spheres or stars have entered the scene. Ice, it seems, has become a little more interesting. Even now, it's fascinating to think about how something as small as an ice cube can evolve. The trays that were once purely utilitarian now come in different forms, each promising something new: a smoother cube, a larger one, even a perfectly round sphere. The idea of what ice is supposed to be, in its simplest form, has expanded. Without much thought, we may take the new tray designs for granted. The smooth, easy-to-use silicone trays that don't freeze your fingers or make the ice impossible to extract. But even these tiny details are part of a larger shift. Ice in the past was something you fought with. Now it's something you barely notice. Still, it's hard to imagine that the first ice cube trays were even a thing. Before the home freezer, ice was a luxury, something that only existed in cool storage areas, a commodity in a time when refrigeration was still a dream. Ice trays weren't a fixture in the home until the mid-20th century, when refrigerators began to include built-in freezers. Even now, there's a quiet nostalgia for the trays of the past. The metal ones that made a satisfying clink as you twisted the handle, a sound that seemed almost mechanical, like something from a different era. These trays required a bit of effort, but that effort made the ice feel more special, more valuable. Still, the move to plastic trays changed everything. The new design made it easier for water to freeze, and the ice cubes were more uniform, more predictable. The trays were cheaper, lighter, and faster. But somewhere along the way, the magic of twisting the metal trays was lost, replaced by a simpler, more efficient system. Without much thought, you might have noticed the evolution of ice in other places. In drinks, the ice cubes have become bigger, colder, and even clearer. Newer trays produce larger blocks of ice, designed to melt slower, to keep the drink colder longer. The way we use ice and the way we think about it has shifted with these changes. Even now, the new designs are more than just for convenience. They're a response to a desire for something different, something more efficient. The way the trays are designed with their silicone molds and easy-release systems speaks to a broader trend in consumer products: simplicity, ease, and practicality. Still, there's a certain charm in those old metal trays, isn't there? They were a part of everyday life, something we took for granted. The way the ice would break free with a satisfying crack, the small effort it took to twist and release the cubes. It's almost as if the process itself was as important as the ice it made. Without much thought, you might be surprised by how these simple trays have shaped our lives, how they've evolved with our needs. Ice is no longer something we just use. It's something we design, something we shape. The form of the ice cube has become a part of our daily rituals, our drinks, our memories. Even now, when you open the freezer and reach for the ice, it feels almost routine. The tray is there, perhaps unnoticed, but always present. It's a small moment in time, a piece of design that quietly serves its purpose. It's just ice, after all. But the way we make it has changed, slowly and steadily, over time. Still, you might find yourself thinking about those trays now, as you reach for the cubes, or perhaps the round spheres. How many shapes can ice take, and how many more ways can we make it? The evolution of the ice cube tray, as simple as it is, speaks to a desire for something better, something more efficient, but also something that stays with us. Maybe tomorrow, you'll notice the tray in your freezer again, or maybe you'll never really think about it at all. It doesn't matter. The shape of the ice cube tray has changed, but ice is still ice, and it still has a way of shaping our world, quietly, steadily. The room is dark, but there's a faint glow. A red light, barely enough to make out the time, quietly pulses in the corner. It's soft, not harsh, just bright enough to pull you from sleep, but not enough to feel like a wake-up call. The red LEDs seem to hold you there for just a moment. You've seen them before, these clocks, the ones with the red numbers glowing faintly through the night. It's not the brightest light, not the most attention-grabbing, but somehow, it's just the right amount. Red doesn't demand too much. It's there, constant, always in the corner of your vision, always waiting. Even now, it's easy to picture it, the numbers red and clear, like silent markers on the passage of time. It doesn't scream or shout, it simply waits. The red glow stays in the background, quietly present, unlike the cold, unforgiving brightness of a white LED or the sharpness of blue. Red feels softer, warmer somehow. Still, there's something deeper at work here. Something about the way red light moves in the dark. It doesn't have the same intensity as blue or white. It's slower, less piercing. It doesn't disturb the eyes as much, letting you focus on the numbers without feeling pulled out of your calm. It's almost like a gentle invitation. You might not think about it, not really. The choice of color is so ingrained in your daily routine. But that red hue faintly glowing from your nightstand has a reason. It's not just about aesthetics or preference, it's about how red light interacts with the world around you, with your eyes, your brain. It's subtle, but it matters. Without much thought, you might assume it's just what clocks do. It's part of the rhythm of morning, a constant in a world of change. But red's role here is deliberate. It's not a coincidence. The reason it's used in so many alarm clocks goes beyond a simple design choice. It's a function, a balance. There's an intimacy to red. It doesn't pull you up out of sleep in a jolt. It's not the aggressive punch of blue or white. It doesn't flicker. It simply lingers. You know it's there. Your eyes find it easily, and it finds you, gently waking you in the quietest possible way. A soft alarm. And maybe that's why it works. It doesn't interfere with your sleep as much. Red light has been shown to be less disruptive to your circadian rhythm, less likely to mess with your body's natural wake-sleep cycle. The light doesn't trick your body into thinking it's daytime. It simply tells you it's time to wake. Gently, even now you're drawn into its soft glow. It doesn't ask for attention, but it holds it. The red hue isn't just a color, it's an experience. It surrounds you, edges the darkness, and with it the morning slowly begins to seep in. It doesn't hurry, it doesn't force, it simply quietly waits. In some ways, it's as if the red light was designed for the morning you didn't want to have. The softest possible nudge, rather than a shove, the way it glows, calm, not urgent. It doesn't demand your attention. It simply suggests it. You'll wake up when you're ready. And the red light, it'll still be there. When you press the button to stop the alarm, the glow fades, but you can still see it. Even in the daylight, the memory of it lingers, soft, red, comforting, a quiet signal that today has begun. The red LED, though faint, is somehow steady. It remains a reminder, even when the day pulls you forward. You've seen these clocks everywhere, from the most basic to the most sophisticated. They all share that glow. Even in the busiest office spaces, the most modern bedrooms, there they are. Red, a little reminder, a small, unobtrusive beacon, guiding you gently through the night, waiting for the morning to catch up. It's not just for function, it's for calm. The color doesn't rush you, doesn't jar you awake like a sharp light might. It simply brings you into the day, at your own pace. Your eyes adjust, your mind wakes up slowly. There's no abruptness, only red, only a steady, constant presence, and as the light fades from your clock, you realize how it shapes the morning. The alarm doesn't roar, it doesn't disrupt, it exists in a gentle space, right between waking and sleeping. Red LED, a quiet companion to your slumber, holding you just long enough, then letting go, never demanding, always present. It's easy to overlook it. The way red light has quietly influenced your morning routine. But once you notice it, once you see the softness of the glow, it's almost impossible to forget. It's a small constant thing in a world full of interruptions, a color that doesn't need to be noticed, but somehow it always is. And even now, as the light fades into the day, you realize something quiet about it. The red LED doesn't ask you to rush. It doesn't force you into the world. It simply gives you space, gives you time. Maybe tomorrow, when you wake, it will be waiting again. And maybe you'll notice it a little more. The faint glow of yellow against a white page. You can almost feel the smooth, deliberate drag of the highlighter across the text, can't you? The lines form slowly, each one carefully traced, as if revealing something hidden beneath. It's a quiet ritual, one that's been repeated millions of times. Still, before there were bright yellow streaks of ink, there was something much simpler. A time when highlighting didn't exist at all. Words were read, but they weren't marked. The act of emphasizing, of bringing attention to a passage, was an instinct, but there was no tool to help you do it. Not yet. In the early days of written texts, readers relied on their own memory and instinct to find what mattered. If a passage was important, it was read again, underlined with pen or pencil, perhaps. But there was no uniform way to mark words, no symbol that stood out clearly on the page. Not until the highlighter emerged. Even now, when you pick up a highlighter, you might not think about its origins. It's just there, another tool for the task. But it wasn't always that way. The yellow highlighter, the one we know so well today, had to be invented. It had to be realized as something essential. Without much thought, the first highlighter was simply a tool that used fluorescent ink. It had to be designed with precision, allowing for a color that stood out, but wasn't too loud. A fine balance between visibility and subtlety. The first markers, appearing in the 1960s, weren't yellow, but more muted in tone. In the beginning, highlighters were just another attempt to create an effective writing tool. But as time went on, they started to catch on, slowly becoming an essential item in offices and classrooms. Over time, the highlighter evolved, and the bright yellow shade began to dominate, replacing its earlier, more subdued versions. Even now, when you hold a highlighter, you may notice how much of a simple object it is. Yet when used, it transforms a page. A block of text becomes a map, a guide to what matters. But it wasn't always yellow, not until the need for visibility became clear. Still, there was a brief time when highlighters came in many colors, but none held the same weight as yellow. Yellow, the most readable of all. It was the color that popped the most, the one that lingered in your memory. It created a rhythm, a flow, guiding the eye across important details. Without much thought, you might assume yellow is the obvious choice, but it wasn't. Before yellow became the default, other colors were considered: pinks, greens, blues, all tested for their ability to stand out against white paper. But nothing worked quite like yellow. Nothing was quite as universally visible. Even now, you might not stop to consider why yellow was chosen over all the other colors. After all, it's just yellow. But the reason was simple. Yellow stood out in the most effective way. It was vibrant, not too distracting, and it created just the right contrast against the white page. Still, think about how you first encountered a highlighter. Was it at school? Or maybe at work, that moment when you learned its purpose, to emphasize, to mark what mattered. That first time you swept the bright ink across a line of text, you knew immediately that something had shifted. Even now, you might notice how the simple act of highlighting can change the way you read. The words become more important, the page becomes more organized. It's a small change, but it creates focus, drawing attention to what needs to be remembered. And it all started with the discovery of that one color. Without much thought, you might realize that a highlighter is just one of many tools we use to make meaning out of the written word. But it is perhaps one of the simplest and most effective, a small practical thing that allows us to sift through information, to find what we need among the clutter. Still, highlighters weren't always part of everyday life. Their rise to prominence is a slow, quiet story, almost hidden beneath the surface of our routines. Today they're everywhere, a tool so commonplace that it's hard to imagine a time before they were here to guide us, to help us focus. Even now, when you reach for a highlighter, it's not just the color you're using. It's the history, the process of evolution that brought it into existence. It's the understanding that behind every line of text marked, there's a quiet power, the ability to draw out what matters from the noise. And tomorrow, when you pick up that highlighter again, you might notice it more. Or maybe you won't. It's just there, ready to help. A small object, but one that's become so essential, it doesn't ask for attention. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's something oddly comforting about the way a trash bag fits into its container. The moment you grab a fresh bag, stretch it over the edges, and tuck it into place, it's easy, simple, but have you ever stopped to think about how those bags come in just the right sizes? Still, we pull the bag from the box without thinking twice. It's a perfect fit, never too big, never too small. But that wasn't always the case. The way trash bags are sized is a quiet little story, tucked away in the everyday. A system that makes sure you don't have to fuss. Without much thought, you probably take for granted how trash bags seem to match their containers. Each size has its place, from the small kitchen bag to the hefty yard bag, it all just fits. But it wasn't always that simple. Those measurements weren't chosen randomly, nor were they the first ones tried. Even now, you might wonder how it all came to be. Who decided what size trash bags should be? It's one of those small details we don't think about, like the perfect balance between the bag and the bin, the way one shape fits into another. But the sizing is far from accidental. A moment in time, the early days of trash bags were messier than you might expect. They weren't quite the neat, uniform products they are now. The first plastic bags, in fact, were nothing more than simple plastic sheeting, used for a variety of purposes before anyone thought about packaging them for trash. Still, it wasn't until the 1960s that the concept of a trash bag truly took shape. A man named Harry Woodapee was behind the first plastic bag that was made specifically for trash. His invention, a simple polyethylene bag, wasn't yet the tidy, standardized product we know today. It was a rough start, but it worked. Without much thought, you might assume the sizing was always based on common sense. After all, you need something that holds enough without being too large or too small. But originally, the sizing wasn't so straightforward. There were no standard sizes. Instead, the bags were often made to fit a specific brand of container, a single purpose. Even now, the sizing continues to be refined. It's based on simple measurements, height, width, and volume. But the question was, how do you decide on the measurements that will be the most universally useful? It took time, testing, and plenty of trial and error to arrive at the sizes that would eventually become standard. A small thing, really, but it's in the little decisions that we find fascinating patterns. The idea was to create bags that would fit standard containers, bins that could be found in every home, office, and street corner. It was about creating something that would work for everyone, without exception, a quiet solution for a universal need. Still, how do you define standard when it comes to trash bags? What makes one size work perfectly for a kitchen while another fits a large yard container? It's not just about the volume of trash, but the way things accumulate, the amount of space, the shape of what you're throwing away. All of it matters. Without much thought, you probably don't notice the exact measurements. It's easy to forget the details once the bag is in place, doing its job. But when you stop to consider it, the numbers are there. It's a precise science. The way a 13-gallon bag fits just right, not too tight, not too loose. There's math behind it. Even now, the sizing process continues to evolve. There are bags for every occasion, from the tiny 4-gallon bags you use in bathrooms to the heavy-duty 30-gallon bags you take outside. Each one is a little calculated miracle, designed to meet the needs of the average person. Simple, effective, and almost always perfect. Still, the size choices are also influenced by convenience. Larger bags aren't just about holding more, they're about ease, being able to take one bag, lift it up, and carry it with minimal hassle. Too big, and it becomes unwieldy. Too small, and you have to change bags too often. Balance is everything. Without much thought, we rarely notice the way bags are sized to match the shape of the bin. The dimensions are carefully calculated to ensure that, no matter what, the bag will fit snugly. Even a simple shape like a square or rectangle has its own unique considerations. The science of a perfect fit, hidden in plain sight. A small observation, but it's something that reflects a quiet rhythm in everyday life. We often don't think twice about the bag we grab, but the sizes are there for a reason. They're designed with purpose, and yet they blend seamlessly into the background of our routines. They're functional, efficient, and effortless, but not by chance. Still, there's something satisfying about how it all comes together. The trash bag, perfectly sized, slipping into its place. No fuss, no adjustments, just a seamless fit. And when you tie it up at the end of the week, there's something comforting about the way everything worked out just right. Without much thought, you might find yourself with a fresh bag, slipping it over the edges of the bin. The fit is perfect. The bag falls into place, doing its job quietly, effortlessly. And for just a moment, you might pause and wonder, how did we get here? How did this small object become so dependable? Maybe tomorrow, when you grab a new trash bag, you'll think about how it fits. Or maybe you won't. Either way, the bag will be there, waiting to hold what's left behind. Just another perfect fit, quietly working in the background. A small solution to a daily need, hidden in plain sight. You've probably seen it. It sits on the desk, a red button with the word easy written across it. It's simple, almost too simple. The kind of thing that doesn't need to be there, but it is, just waiting for you to press it. And when you do, a satisfying beep fills the air. The first time you encounter the Staples Easy button, it's almost hypnotic. You don't even need to know what it's for. Just the sight of it, sitting innocuously on a desk, beckoning, promises some kind of instant solution. You press it, not out of necessity, but because, well, it feels right. Still, if you pause for a moment, you might realize that it's not just a button, it's a carefully crafted piece of marketing, designed to tap into something more subtle. That word, easy, it's not just there for fun, it's a promise. A promise that things could be simpler, faster, more straightforward. If only for a moment, you press it again, and the sound is there. The beep, a soft, satisfying noise, almost like a small release. It's an odd thing, pressing a button for no real reason, just because it's there. And every time, that little beep reminds you that you've completed an action, even if it didn't really do anything. Even now, the simplicity of the button feels almost too perfect. In a world filled with complexity, the easy button is like a quiet protest against the chaos. It doesn't offer a solution to your real problems, but it offers something else, a brief escape, a tiny break from the overwhelming, always busy feeling of modern life. Without much thought, it becomes a habit. You press it, hear the beep, and for a split second, you feel like you've accomplished something. It's not real, not tangible, but in the moment, it feels like progress, like you've moved forward, even if you've only moved a millimeter. But that's enough, isn't it? The design of the easy button is in its own way brilliant. It's not just a button, it's a small piece of relief. It gives you the illusion of control in a world where control can feel scarce. With one press, you tap into a fleeting moment of certainty. Things are easy, just for a second. This small object, sitting quietly on your desk, is something we don't often think about. It's so innocuous, so mundane, yet it's carefully designed to give us a feeling of satisfaction. It doesn't matter if the button leads to anything meaningful. What matters is that it plays on a deeper desire to make life simpler, if only for a moment. At its core, the easy button is a material memory. Something designed not to solve problems, but to create a feeling of ease. It's the perfect paradox, isn't it? An object that doesn't serve a practical purpose, but still manages to give us something we crave, a moment of simplicity, a brief breath in the chaos. And yet, it's fleeting. After the beep, you might move on, back to the mess of things, but it lingers in your mind, quietly. Every time you press it, you return to that brief second of calm, of simplicity, and then it's gone. Like a soft ripple in the water, it fades away almost as soon as it arrives. Even now, you might find yourself thinking about it. The next time you're in a store, you'll notice it, sitting there waiting. A red button, with the promise of easy. You'll be tempted to press it again, just to hear that small confirmation, just to feel that tiny flicker of ease. It's something we all understand. but it's the quiet nature of the design that makes it work. The button doesn't demand attention. It doesn't scream for validation. It's there, unobtrusive, almost hidden in plain sight. You could ignore it, but then again, why would you? It offers something so simple, so satisfying, that it almost feels like a secret. There's a strange joy in the simplicity of it all. The easy button, in its quiet, deliberate design, offers a moment of peace in a cluttered world. A press, a beep, and for a second, everything feels aligned. A strange reminder that sometimes, even the smallest things can create the most profound effects, without much thought. You may begin to wonder how many other small, quiet things are designed to offer this same escape. Maybe it's not a button. Maybe it's something else. A gesture, a habit, a familiar sound. All these little things woven together form the fabric of simplicity we crave, even if only for a brief moment. And so, the easy button waits. You might press it again tomorrow, or maybe you'll forget about it for a while. But it's always there, offering that same brief sense of ease, always ready to bring a small moment of relief. It doesn't ask for much, it simply waits, quiet, unchanged. It's strange how something so simple can bring a sense of comfort. The soft tapping of keys, the rhythmic clack of a keyboard beneath your fingers. It's not loud, not overwhelming, but it's there. A background noise that has become as much a part of typing as the words themselves. Still, think back to the early days of computers. Keyboards were silent. The absence of sound almost felt unsettling. You'd press a key, and nothing would happen. Your fingers would move across the keys, but it felt distant, disconnected. There was no feedback, no sense of confirmation that something was happening. Even now, you can feel the difference. When you press a key, you want some response, not just the action on the screen, but something deeper, something tactile, like a soft echo of the press, reassuring you that the key was actually pressed, that the thought you had was translated into action. Without much thought, it seems like a small thing, the sound of typing, but once it was gone, it was oddly noticeable. Silent keyboards became the norm, and something was missing. The subtle noise, once a given, had disappeared, and people started to feel it. Typing had become too quiet, too disconnected. The answer, perhaps, is that people missed the sound. It's not just about the action, it's about the experience. When you type, there's a rhythm, a dance between your mind and your fingers, and the sound, the tapping, it made everything feel real. It was a bridge between thought and creation. Still, you might wonder why it took so long for them to bring the sound back. Wasn't the silence supposed to be an improvement? After all, silent keyboards were marketed as a way to reduce noise, a more peaceful, efficient experience. But somewhere along the way, people realized that silence didn't feel quite right. Even now, the sounds of typing seem so natural. It's like the hum of a busy office, the soft tapping, like the heartbeat of productivity. There's something comforting in the rhythm, in the familiarity of the click-clack beneath your fingers. You can almost hear it now, can't you? It's impossible to ignore. Without much thought, the sound of typing has become a part of the process. It's not just about the work anymore. It's about the rhythm, the repetitive tapping, almost hypnotic in its simplicity. It becomes a pattern, a part of your flow. The words appear, but the sound lingers, a reminder of what you're doing. It's curious how something so seemingly insignificant can shift the experience of typing. The absence of sound created a kind of detachment. The return of the noise brought a sense of connection, a reminder that your fingers are part of something larger. They aren't just moving, they're part of a conversation, a creation. Still, you've probably never thought about it this way. The quiet keyboards of the past were meant to be improvements, but what they lost was the comfort of sound. The sound that allowed your mind to track the movement of your fingers, to synchronize the body with the task. It was more than just noise. Even now, that subtle clack feels like a grounding force. Without it, typing might have felt mechanical, robotic, but with it, there's something human about it. It's a reminder that you're here, that you're present in the moment, part of the rhythm of the world around you. It's not just words you're creating, it's an experience. Without much thought, you might find yourself typing in a world that has become defined by this rhythm. The gentle clicking of the keys is part of the larger picture. It's a sound that's woven itself into the fabric of daily life, a part of the constant hum of activity that surrounds us. Still, in quieter spaces, you can feel the absence of that sound. A silent keyboard now feels like a void. You want the feedback, the confirmation. A sound, no matter how small, tells you that you're moving forward, that the work is happening, that progress is being made. It's a small reassurance, but it matters. Even now, you can hear the sound in your mind, can't you? The gentle tap of a key, followed by another. A rhythm, a cadence that draws you in. It's not loud, not intrusive, but it's there, filling the space with purpose. It's the pulse of productivity. The heartbeat of every keystroke. Without much thought, you realize that this sound, this small detail, is part of the daily rhythm. It's a part of the landscape, a quiet companion to the work, the thoughts, the moments in between. And maybe it's not just about the work, maybe it's about the feeling, the comfort, the connection it brings. Maybe tomorrow, when you sit down to type again, you'll notice the sound a little more. Or maybe you won't. But either way, it will be there, quiet, familiar, and ever-present, just like it always has been, a small part of the rhythm that flows through your fingers and into the world around you. There's something about the way light catches on a glass doorknob. It doesn't matter if it's the soft glow of early morning or the warm fade of evening. The light reflects off the smooth, often frosted surface, creating tiny prisms that seem to dance in the air. It's quiet, subtle, beautiful. Still, glass doorknobs weren't always so common. There was a time when they were a rare sight, something special, something to be admired. Their clear, smooth surfaces were seen as elegant, but their popularity didn't come from a sense of luxury. It came from something else, something less expected. In the 1930s, during the depths of the Great Depression, people needed affordable ways to bring beauty into their homes. Times were tough, wealth and grandeur were harder to come by, but something as simple as a doorknob could still transform a space. Glass doorknobs became a quiet rebellion against the era's hardships. Even now, when you walk into a home and see a glass doorknob, there's a sense of nostalgia. They were never just functional. They had presence, a delicate elegance that made even the smallest room feel more refined. It's a moment where design meets necessity, and something magical happens. Without much thought, you might not realize that glass doorknobs were once part of a larger trend. During the Depression, they were a symbol of affordable beauty, a way to elevate a home without breaking the bank. They weren't extravagant, but they had a quiet charm that made them seem special. Still, when you imagine a house during the 1930s, you might picture heavy dark wood, practical sturdy things, but glass doorknobs brought light, softness, and even a hint of opulence to these homes. Their transparent beauty stood out against the more somber materials of the time, and people were drawn to that. Even now, when you turn one of those doorknobs, you might notice the subtle weight in your hand, the smoothness of the glass as your fingers wrap around it. It's a small, almost intimate detail, but one that connects you to a past that is far removed from today's world, yet still quietly present. Still, there was a time when glass doorknobs were seen as the mark of a home that had something extra. They didn't just open doors. They made a statement, no matter how small. In a world where everything felt scarce, they were a reminder that beauty could still be created, even on a budget. Even now, there's a certain fragility to glass. It's delicate, almost too delicate for something so functional. And yet that fragility is part of its charm. It's a reminder of a time when craftsmanship and beauty weren't reserved for the wealthy. Instead, they were accessible to everyone, even in the toughest of times. Still, glass doorknobs were not just about their appearance. Their smooth surface, their cool touch, even the soft clink when they were turned, they provided a tactile experience. In an age when luxuries were few, this small pleasure was a welcome respite, a moment of quiet indulgence in everyday life. Without much thought, we often overlook how something as simple as a doorknob can shape the feel of a space. But those glass doorknobs did more than just function. They gave a room personality. A home with glass doorknobs was a home that paid attention to detail, that cared about the little things. Still, after the Depression, the world moved on. New materials, new trends emerged, and the glass doorknob faded into the background. But even now, when you find one, it's a reminder of a different time, of a people who found ways to bring beauty into their lives, even when everything else seemed bleak. Even now, when you look at a glass doorknob, you can see a glimpse of that past. It's more than just an object. It's a memory, a relic of an era where something as small as a doorknob could hold meaning. A quiet piece of history, waiting for someone to notice. Still, there's a certain elegance in these simple objects. They were not flashy, not over the top, but they had their own quiet, understated beauty. In their simplicity, they reminded people that beauty could be found anywhere, even in the most unexpected places. Even now, when glass doorknobs are used less frequently, they still carry that quiet grace. They've become a piece of nostalgia, a relic of a time when people found ways to make their lives a little more beautiful, even in the most difficult circumstances. Still, when you close a door with one of those glass doorknobs, it's almost as if you're closing a chapter of history. The cold, smooth glass against your skin is a gentle reminder of what has passed, of a world where beauty wasn't always about wealth, but about creating something lasting, something elegant. Even now they remain unchanged. The design, the glass, the click of the door, it all feels like a moment frozen in time. A quiet, simple piece of the past, waiting for someone to notice it again. There's something about the simple gesture, isn't there? The outstretched hand, palm facing forward. It's a shape you've seen countless times, but never really thought about. When you see it, you know what it means. The "do not walk" symbol is as familiar as the road itself, yet its meaning is quiet, unspoken. You've probably passed it thousands of times, perhaps without ever really noticing the hand itself. But when it catches your eye, there's something almost peaceful about it. It's not a warning so much as a gentle command, a reminder that for now you must stop, that for a moment you wait. Still, have you ever wondered why the hand was chosen? Why not something else? A red light, a stop sign, even a simple no symbol. There are many ways to tell someone to wait, to stop, but the hand feels different, doesn't it? There's something about its shape that makes it stand out. The design, though simple, carries weight. The palm open, fingers spread wide, like a soft barrier, asking for pause, not aggressive, but insistent. There's a quiet elegance in the way it asks for your attention. It's not shouting, it's not demanding, it simply holds up its hand and waits. Even now you might picture it in your mind. The white silhouette of the hand against a solid red background. That stark contrast catches your eye. It's not hidden, not subtle, but neither is it jarring. It exists in the space between decisions, a gentle reminder to hold for just a moment longer. Without much thought, you might find yourself pausing. You stand, waiting for something as simple as a change in the light. The hand, though, is always there, unmoving, quiet. It never falters. It doesn't rush. It simply waits for the moment to pass, for the world to keep moving in its own steady rhythm. And there it is again. The hand, ready, like a symbol frozen in time. It's almost calming, in a way. You can count on it to be there, to remind you of the stillness that exists in waiting. It doesn't ask anything of you except to stop, to be present for just a moment. But why a hand? It could have been a shape, a letter, a line, but the hand, with its human connection, speaks a language we all understand. It's universal. Everyone, no matter where they are, knows what that hand means. And in that simplicity, in that shared understanding, there's something quietly profound. Still, it's not just the shape of the hand that makes it work. It's the fact that it's a human gesture, familiar in its nature. There's no confusion in it. It's a gesture you've seen since childhood, probably even before you could read the signs. You've learned to recognize it as a sign to stop. You've seen the hand in different places, haven't you? On street corners, at crosswalks, even in parking lots. It's a symbol that lives with us, silently guiding us. In each of these moments, you're asked to pause, to breathe for a second, and allow the world around you to shift into place. And yet, there's something subtle about the "do not walk" symbol. It doesn't ask for anything extra. No bright lights, no loud sounds. It simply exists, hanging in the air like a soft whisper. Its power comes not from the need to demand, but from its quiet presence, its timeless design. Without much thought, you press on when the light changes. The hand fades away, swallowed by the rhythm of the city. But it's still there in your mind, that simple hand, quietly waiting. And when you encounter it again, it will still ask you to stop, still remind you to hold, just for a moment. Even now, the next time you see it, you'll recognize it without hesitation. The hand once again reaching out, palm facing forward, asking for pause. It's almost comforting, in its familiarity, that simple gesture. Something about it feels constant, steady, like a small reminder that it's okay to stop, just for a while. It's strange how something so simple can become so ingrained. The hand is a universal symbol, not because it was chosen in any particular way, but because it speaks to us in a language we've all come to understand. A soft human gesture, shared by all, without much thought at all. It simply waits, quiet, unchanged. There's a moment, often unnoticed, when you look up at a ceiling. The tiles are perfectly aligned, separated by thin lines, forming a grid. It's a simple, uniform pattern that creates a sense of order. But why is it that this exact grid is almost always the same, no matter the space? Still, most of the time, you don't question it. The grid is simply there, part of the background. It's the same pattern in offices, schools, and hospitals. It's as if the ceiling itself has been standardized, designed to fit perfectly into the rhythm of any room. But there's a reason for it. Even now, if you pause to look up, you can see the lines, intersecting and creating squares. It's almost meditative, the way the tiles fall into place, one after another. The grid pattern is not accidental. It's purposeful, designed to make the ceiling functional, flexible, and aesthetically pleasing all at once. Without much thought, the grid becomes just part of the architecture. But its design speaks to a history of construction and convenience. The grid system allows for easy access to the space above the tiles, for wiring, pipes, or ventilation systems. It's practical, designed to be both invisible and accessible. It's not just about the ease of installation, though. The grid pattern also provides structural stability. The tiles are suspended in place, held by the grid's framework. Without this structure, the tiles could easily fall, creating a safety hazard. The grid keeps everything secure, giving the room a quiet, solid foundation. Even now, when you enter a room, you might not immediately notice the grid, but it's there, silently holding up the ceiling, dividing the space into neat sections. It's a subtle visual cue that directs your attention upward without overwhelming the space. The grid is both functional and calming, creating balance. Still, the tiles themselves come in a variety of shapes, but they're often sized to fit into the same grid system. This flexibility allows designers to customize the look of a room while maintaining the structural integrity and accessibility of the ceiling. The grid serves as a guide, no matter what the tiles look like. The consistency of the grid pattern also helps with acoustics. The spaces between the tiles can help dampen sound, making rooms feel quieter. In larger buildings, this becomes especially important. The grid acts like an acoustic filter, softening the noise around you without you even realizing it. A small detail, yet it shapes the environment. Without much thought, you move through rooms, never truly seeing the grid. It's like a backdrop, unnoticed but ever present. It guides your eyes subtly, creating an impression of calmness. The repeating lines seem to stretch across the room, pulling everything into a sense of order. It's quiet, but it's there, always working. Even in a space that feels chaotic, the grid remains constant. It's like the quiet structure beneath the noise, holding everything together. No matter how the room is used, the ceiling stays the same. The grid pattern is the thread that ties it all together, no matter how much activity happens beneath it. The grid is also a product of practicality. It was designed to be cost-effective, easy to install, and easy to maintain. A ceiling laid out in a uniform pattern makes for a simpler installation process, and it allows for easy replacement of individual tiles when needed. The grid system makes maintenance effortless, almost invisible. Still, there's an aesthetic component to the grid, even if we don't always notice it. The pattern itself adds a subtle texture to the room, an underlying rhythm that pulls the space together. The ceiling becomes part of the room's overall design, not just something overhead, but something that helps shape the feeling of the space. Even now, you might not stop to think about the design of the ceiling, but there it is, quietly shaping your experience of the room. The grid pattern isn't there to be noticed, but to provide structure, support, and balance. It's part of the environment, quietly making the room feel organized and calm. Without much thought, you continue through your day, moving between rooms, never questioning the ceiling. The grid holds everything in place, above and below, without asking for attention. It's a quiet reminder of how design, even in its simplest form, can influence how we feel in a space. It's never loud, but always present. And when you leave the room, the grid stays behind, waiting, always ready to hold the space together. It doesn't ask for anything, just time. It doesn't need attention. It simply waits, continuing its work, always unnoticed, always in the background. The ceiling tiles, in their quiet, organized pattern, remain. The cool, metallic click of a phone opening and closing echoes softly in the air. A simple motion, but there's something about it that feels slightly nostalgic. You remember when that satisfying snap was accompanied by a small, elegant metal antenna that would extend out almost ceremoniously, as if to prove the phone's power. Still, there's something quiet about the antenna. It wasn't the most exciting part of the phone, but it served its purpose. That little piece of metal, jutting out like a small tower, a symbol of connectivity. It was a feature that seemed so normal, so necessary, but now it feels so forgotten. Even now, when was the last time you thought about it? When was the last time you saw a phone with one of those delicate retractable antennas? It's funny how something so integral to the function of a device can fade into obscurity so quietly. The antenna had its time, and then it just vanished. The story of the retractable phone antenna isn't one of sudden change, but gradual disappearance. At the height of its popularity, it was considered a mark of sophistication. Having a phone with a visible antenna meant you had access, a connection. It was a small, yet undeniable symbol of your place in the modern world. Without much thought, that simple antenna did its job. When extended, it brought in a clearer signal, connecting you to the outside world with a quiet elegance. The movement was automatic, almost like a second nature. Pull it out, make the call, then snap it back in when the conversation ended. It was just what you did. Still, its place in the design of phones was never permanent. As mobile technology advanced, so too did the need for smaller, sleeker devices. The retractable antenna, once a defining feature of many phones, began to seem bulky, even a little unnecessary. The more streamlined phones became, the less room there was for something so conspicuous. The rise of internal antennas marked the beginning of the end for the retractable design. These new antennas, hidden away inside the phone, did the same job, sometimes better even, but without the need for an external piece of hardware. Suddenly, the once dominant antenna had nowhere to go but out of sight, quietly fading into the background of phone history. Even now, the absence of that antenna can feel strangely empty. Phones have become so sleek, so thin, that it's almost hard to imagine them with anything sticking out. The shift was gradual. At first, it was easy to miss, just a change in design, a subtle shift in the way we used our phones, but over time, the antenna became a relic. The truth is, the retractable antenna wasn't all that glamorous. It was a simple thing, after all. But it held significance. It was a necessary part of the phone's function, a key to connecting you with others. And now it's easy to forget just how much we relied on it, until you see a vintage phone tucked away in a drawer. Without much thought, you press the button on your phone, and it's as though the absence of the antenna doesn't matter anymore. The call connects, the message sends, and you forget the small retracting piece of metal that once made the process possible. The world has moved on, and the phone too has evolved. Still, there's something quietly powerful about the simplicity of those old phones. The way the antenna would rise, just like that, as if saying, "I am here, I am ready to connect." It was more than just functionality. It was part of a ritual, a small, almost meditative act in a world that has grown ever more complex. In truth, the antenna's disappearance wasn't tragic. It wasn't like the death of something irreplaceable. It was just a product of progress. The technology evolved, the design improved, and we moved on to sleeker, more efficient devices. The retractable antenna had its moment, and then it became a chapter in the book of technology. Even now, though, the memory of it lingers. There's something about those early cell phones, something about that small, graceful motion of extending and retracting the antenna, that feels like a different time. A time when phones were just beginning to change the way we lived, but had not yet reached their current state of endless possibility. And maybe tomorrow, if you pass by an old phone, you'll catch a glimpse of that familiar metal antenna poking out from the corner of some forgotten device. Or maybe you'll never see it again, and it will quietly fade into the vast sea of tech history, waiting to be rediscovered someday. It doesn't ask for attention, but it never really leaves. You open the drawer, fingers brushing the handle, and feel it, that small resistance. It's just a little at first, but with a slight tug, it gives way, creaking open. It always starts on the left, doesn't it? The left side catches, pulls against you. It's almost like an unspoken pattern. Still, it's curious, why does the left side always stick? You've probably done this 100 times, opening the same drawer day after day. But each time, without fail, the left side resists first. A small detail in your routine, unnoticed for years, yet always there, quietly pulling at your patience. Even now, as you reach for the drawer, you can feel it again. The left side, the subtle friction, it feels almost familiar, like an old habit. You don't even think about it anymore. You just know that first tug, the resistance, and then the smooth glide once the drawer is fully open. Without much thought, you accept it. It's just part of the experience, like the creak of a chair or the hum of a fan. The left side sticks, and the drawer opens. It's small, insignificant even, but it's there, always. A part of the ritual, part of the routine that never changes. The answer, though, is simple. Wood, the material of most desk drawers, expands and contracts with temperature and humidity. The left side, often positioned closer to the wall or the side of the desk, is more likely to bear the brunt of this. The wood swells, and the left side catches. The friction builds. Still, there's something oddly comforting about it, don't you think? The predictability of it. No matter how many times you open it, the left side will always resist first. It's as though the drawer itself is saying, "I've been here, I've held these items before. Let's do this again, just as we always do." Even now, you might pause before opening the drawer, almost expecting that same resistance. It's the little things, isn't it? Those tiny quirks in everyday life that make everything feel a little more grounded, a little more familiar. The left side of the drawer, sticking just so, reminds you of the consistency of routine. Without much thought, the drawer opens fully. The resistance fades, and you're left with that small moment of calm. Everything inside is still in its place. The left side might have stuck at first, but now the drawer slides easily, as though it was never anything but smooth. It's not a big thing, it doesn't matter much in the grand scheme of the day. But as you pull the drawer open again, you notice how the left side catches, even just a little. It's almost like the drawer is a living thing, with its own small memory of how it has opened before. And maybe that's the real reason it sticks. Not just because of temperature or humidity, but because the drawer has learned the pattern. Every time you tug at the handle, it remembers the left side feels the pressure first. It resists, just as it always has, just as it always will. Even now, you might find yourself listening for it. That little click, that resistance as the drawer opens. It's comforting, in a way. A reminder that even small things, like a desk drawer, have their own rhythms, things that remain steady, even when everything else around them is changing. Without much thought, you've opened the drawer again. And the left side, once again, resists first, a small subtle moment, but one that feels strangely reassuring. There's no urgency, no rush, just the familiar tug. The left side catches, the drawer opens. It's as simple and predictable as that. It doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't demand recognition, but it's there, every time. That little bit of resistance, that soft catch, and when the drawer is finally open, you'll almost forget it was ever there. The left side will fade away, waiting for the next time it's needed. Maybe you'll notice it again tomorrow, or maybe you won't, but the drawer will be there, quietly waiting for you, always with that small resistance on the left side. It's not the most important thing in the world, but it's a part of your world, a small familiar detail that's never quite the same as anything else. And then, just like that, the thought fades. You've forgotten about the drawer and its stubborn left side. The resistance is gone, replaced by the soft, silent glide of the open drawer. But for a moment, you remember, and then, just as quietly, it drifts away. The soft rubber meets your fingertip. It's always a small, almost imperceptible moment, but it's there. The eraser cap, the small cylindrical bit of pink rubber perched on top of a pencil. You've seen it countless times, likely without ever wondering why it exists at all. But it wasn't always meant to be what it is now. Still, it's a detail we often overlook. The pencil eraser cap, a fixture of schoolrooms and desks, has become part of the familiar routine. You twist it, you erase, and that's it. It's so simple, so functional. But like so many things in life, its original purpose was something else entirely. Without much thought, you might never realize that the eraser cap wasn't always the accessory it seems today. In fact, when it was first invented, it was part of an entirely different mechanism. It wasn't designed to be a small add-on. It was created to solve a larger problem that the pencil in its early days didn't address. Even now, we think of the pencil as the perfect tool, small, simple, and practical. But it wasn't always that way. When it first emerged in the 16th century, the pencil had no eraser. It was just a solid piece of graphite wrapped in wood. Mistakes were permanent, no eraser, no way to fix a mark. Still, the desire for something more flexible, more forgiving, was inevitable. People wanted a way to erase mistakes, but erasers as we know them today didn't exist yet. The first attempts at erasing came with the use of breadcrumbs, a strange solution, but they were messy, impractical. Something better was needed. Without much thought, you might not realize that the eraser, when it finally arrived, was more of a novelty than a necessity. The first erasers were made of rubber, and they became a minor sensation when they arrived in the late 18th century. But there was still a problem. Where would you put them? Even now, it's easy to take the eraser cap for granted. It's just there, perched on the top of the pencil, waiting to be used. But at its origin, the cap wasn't just an afterthought. It was part of a larger idea, designed to make the pencil more functional, more complete. It was meant to keep the eraser close, always within reach. Still, the cap itself wasn't an immediate success. Early designs of pencils with erasers were a bit clumsy. The eraser itself was large, unwieldy, and often fell off. It wasn't until the 1850s, when a man named Hyman L. Lipman patented the design of a pencil with a built-in eraser, that the real potential of the pencil eraser cap was realized. Without much thought, we now take it for granted. The small rubber cap, always just there, attached to the pencil. It's easy to forget that this small addition was once the result of innovation. It wasn't simply about erasing marks. It was about making the pencil more useful, more versatile in the hands of its user. Still, the pencil eraser cap evolved over time. It became smaller, more efficient. What started as a necessity for holding the eraser in place became a practical feature for ease of use. Over the years, the eraser cap shifted, growing softer, smaller, and more integrated into the pencil itself. It was a change, but one that felt natural. Even now, when you use a pencil, you might not consider how that tiny cap came to be. It seems like such a simple thing, but it's rooted in a long history of design and innovation. A small piece of rubber that has become integral to how we write and correct our mistakes. Something so small, yet so deeply embedded in daily life. Still, there's something oddly comforting about the pencil eraser cap. It's part of the everyday rhythm, a tiny tool that helps us fix what we've done wrong, that corrects the little missteps in our day-to-day. It sits there, quietly, unobtrusively, offering the promise of second chances, of starting over with a simple twist. Without much thought, you might find yourself using the cap without thinking about the effort it took to perfect it. The pencil eraser cap wasn't a necessary accessory. It was a solution to a problem, a small but profound change in how we interact with the pencil, making it a more complete tool, one that could handle both creation and correction. Still, the purpose of the eraser cap was not simply to make erasing easier. It was about accessibility. By attaching it directly to the pencil, it ensured that the eraser would always be there when you needed it. It was in its own way a small revolution in design, turning an everyday tool into something more reliable, more adaptable. Even now, as you reach for your pencil, you may not even realize the weight of history behind that little rubber cap. It's always been there, in the background doing its job without much fanfare. It's easy to forget the original purpose, the problem it was meant to solve, but it remains, quietly, waiting for its moment. Still, you might find that the next time you pick up a pencil, you'll think about that cap for a moment, not just as a tool for erasing, but as a small marker of design evolution. A reminder that even the simplest things, the smallest details, have histories, solutions, and purposes that stretch back longer than we might realize. Maybe tomorrow, when you pick up a pencil, you'll notice the cap again. Or maybe you won't, it doesn't matter. It will still be there, a small quiet part of the world, waiting for you to use it. Always present, always ready. A soft reminder that even the smallest objects have their stories. The sound of the drawer opening is familiar, like the rustling of paper in a forgotten room. You reach for the handle, pulling it with a soft creak. Inside, rows of metal dividers, each one promising order, but somehow always seeming out of place. The filing cabinet stands, waiting, a quiet symbol of routine. You've seen it before, this metal box with its cold exterior, filled with folders, papers, and files. But what's strange is how arbitrary it all seems. There's no real reason the files are stacked the way they are. A cabinet, designed to hold things in place, yet the arrangement inside never feels quite as logical as it should. Still, you open it, and there they are. The files, lined up by categories, perhaps, alphabetical, or maybe by date. But even that doesn't seem to make sense. Why this method? Why this specific order? No one ever seems to question it, though. It's just how things are done. The structure is so ingrained that it's invisible. Even now you can feel the tension between the system and the chaos, folders crammed into slots that were never quite meant for them. They don't fit perfectly, but they don't fall apart either. The labels are there, of course, but their clarity fades over time, like the meaning behind a long-forgotten map. Without much thought, you probably know exactly where to look, even if the system seems flawed. The labels, hastily written, sometimes illegible, still point you to the right place. It's as if the layout doesn't matter so much as the habit of knowing where things should be. It's all instinct. The space is organized, but just barely. The odd thing is, there's no real reason this should be the standard. The filing cabinet could have been designed in 100 different ways. But somehow, the layout we have now is universal, existing in offices everywhere, quietly taking up space, holding together a little chaos in the form of paper. In fact, it's strange how these cabinets have become the foundation of office life. The metal, the drawers, the repetitive click of a new file sliding in. It's a ritual, and yet the way each drawer is sectioned off seems more of a compromise than a design choice, an arbitrary system agreed upon without anyone really asking, does this make sense? You slide open the next drawer, and there they are again, the files, stacked in rows. Some have been moved, some have been forgotten, but they all wait for their turn. The filing cabinet isn't a machine of perfect order. It's a monument to the mundane, a structure built for efficiency, but only just. It feels like a system that's always half broken, but never fully falling apart. Still, you probably don't think about it much. The filing cabinet has become a fixture in your life, like an old friend you no longer question. You just trust it to hold everything in place, even if the way it holds things doesn't seem entirely rational. The routine is enough. The drawers slide, the files fit, and that's enough. The labels, too, are arbitrary. What makes this document fit under X and that one under Y? It could have been different. The system could have been anything, color-coded, digital, organized by some invisible method we'll never know. But this one, this metal box with sliding drawers, is what we've chosen. Or maybe it's what we've accepted. Even now, you glance at the labels, your eyes moving quickly over the titles. You don't question them. The filing cabinet's method is so ingrained in you that it becomes invisible, a part of the background. What does it matter that the system doesn't make much sense? It works. In some way, it works. Without much thought, you close the drawer. Another day, another set of papers shuffled into their places, their arbitrary sections. The filing cabinet waits quietly in the corner, a fixture in the landscape of your work, its unremarkable design, a part of the rhythm. You've never stopped to wonder why it looks this way. It simply is. You can almost hear the soft clink of the metal as the drawer locks back into place. The cabinet, perfectly ordinary, perfectly functional, stands as it always has. But there's something oddly comforting about its imperfection. The randomness, the disorganization, has become the pattern. You move on, it stays. Maybe tomorrow, you'll pause for a moment. Maybe you'll think about how strange it is that this design is universal, that we've all settled into this rhythm, this compromise. But probably not. You'll open the drawer, look for the label, find the paper you need, and move on. The filing cabinet will remain, just as it always has, quiet, waiting. There's something oddly familiar about the shape of a salt shaker, the simple, cylindrical form, the satisfying weight of it in your hand, the feel of it, cool and unassuming. But if you look closer, something strange becomes apparent. The holes, each one is different, depending on where it was made. It's subtle at first, almost invisible, unless you pay attention. A shaker from one country might have large, round holes, while another might feature a tight grid of tiny, almost imperceptible perforations. Still, it's the difference in how they let the salt out that shapes your experience, more than you realize. Even now, it's hard to imagine a world where salt shakers weren't uniform. But the truth is, their designs are a quiet reflection of different cultural habits. In some places, a shaker might be meant for a quick dash of salt, 2 or 3 grains, nothing more. In others, it's about a more generous sprinkle, deliberate and slow. Without much thought, you might grab a salt shaker without realizing the design embedded in your hand. The holes in the shaker are an invitation, a cue that lets you know how much salt to expect. You might not even notice that one might be designed for a gentle pour, the other for a scatter. It's the shape of the holes, you see, that changes the flow. The pattern, tight, loose, or somewhere in between, controls how much salt finds its way to your food. A shaker with fewer, larger holes delivers a stronger, more forceful stream. It's a quick sprinkle, something you might find in a diner, familiar and bold. Still, in other countries, the salt shaker is much more subdued. The holes are smaller, more tightly spaced, and the salt slips out slowly, as if savoring each grain as it falls. It's a design that encourages patience, letting the salt fall gently, one piece at a time, an exercise in mindfulness. It's strange, isn't it, to think that something so small could hold so much meaning, that the very act of shaking salt could be shaped by culture. The difference between a quick brash sprinkle and a careful measured dash, the holes themselves might not tell the whole story, but they do reveal a little about the people who use them. You might find these differences in your own travels without even realizing it. A salt shaker in Japan is more likely to have smaller, neatly arranged holes, reflecting a cuisine where balance and precision are prized. While in the US, you might encounter shakers with wide, open holes designed for a more casual, generous flow. But the variety is even wider than that. In Italy, you may find a classic large-hole shaker used in kitchens, designed for generous seasoning, yet in cafes, the holes shrink, the flow tighter, inviting a more thoughtful sprinkle, a slower pace to the meal. The shaker itself seems to mirror the pace of life in these places. Even now, the salt shaker remains a quiet testament to the differences in how we approach the mundane. You might hold one in your hand without a second thought, but the way salt leaves the shaker has been thoughtfully crafted. The design, delicate or bold, speaks of the speed, the style, the expectation, without much thought. These small design choices go unnoticed. Yet they are there, in the simplest of objects, the salt shaker, of all things, designed in a way that fits the rhythm of each place. The holes, the way they let the salt escape, an unspoken language that tells a story about where it was made. And so, each country's salt shaker reflects its culture in ways you might never have expected. Not in grand gestures, but in small details. A shaker's shape, the size of the holes, the texture of the pour, it's a little reflection of the world it comes from, wrapped in the smallest of gestures. Maybe you've never paid much attention to how a salt shaker pours, or the way the holes shift, but next time you reach for one, you might feel it. How the salt falls differently, how the shape of those holes changes everything. It's subtle, but it's there, waiting for you to notice. Perhaps tomorrow, you'll pick up a salt shaker and pause. You might feel the coolness of it in your hand. You might think about the rhythm of the pour, how the shape of the holes affects the flow. Or maybe you'll just continue to sprinkle, unaware, as the salt falls steadily, one grain at a time. It doesn't ask for attention, this small object, but it never really leaves. Like so many things, it's just there, waiting to be noticed, or to be passed over. But in the end it remains a part of the world, a part of how we move through it. There's something oddly satisfying about the sound, that sharp, crisp click. It comes unexpectedly, like a sudden decision made without hesitation. And when it happens, there's a finality to it, a quiet certainty that nothing can undo what has just been done. It's the sound of a zip tie in place. It's a simple object, really. Just a small strip of plastic wrapped around something, holding it, securing it. But when you pull the end through the tiny locking mechanism, that click echoes. It feels like something is sealed, as though it could never be undone. But why does it make that sound? Still, many people never stop to think about it. They use zip ties in their everyday life, and the sound comes and goes like a faint memory, slipping past unnoticed. It's the sound of a decision being made, one that doesn't leave room for return. Once it clicks, that's it. The design itself is deceptively simple, just a strip of plastic with a ribbed surface that slides into a ratchet mechanism. As you pull, each notch on the rib clicks into place, creating a sound that's both sharp and certain. And when the last one locks in, the tie is held fast, without a trace of doubt. Why is the sound so significant? What is it about that click that gives us a sense of finality? The more you think about it, the more it seems like a subtle trick. The design isn't just about functionality, it's about creating an irreversible moment. A small event that feels important, even though it's not. Even now, after the tie is in place and the sound has faded, the tension remains. The click is the moment of no return. It feels like you've sealed something away, something that won't come undone without force. The sound, the design, it creates the illusion of control, as though we've chosen an irreversible path. Without much thought, we forget that we're part of this design, this system. The zip tie doesn't just hold things together, it holds us in place too. It's the finality, the certainty, that brings us back to it time and time again. There's something oddly hypnotic in the way the sound takes over for just a moment. The tie pulls tight, the click happens, and in that brief second, it's as though something has been decided, something beyond the simple plastic. It's almost like it's meant to echo through the quiet of the room, reminding you that once it's clicked, there's no going back, not without a fight. Maybe that's the magic of the zip tie. It's not just about keeping things in place, it's about the illusion of control. The tie is an invisible boundary. It's a boundary that you can't see, but you can hear, and it marks the point where something has changed, where something is no longer free. And still, there's something fascinating about the sound itself. It's not the sound of a button being pressed or a lock being turned. It's something more primal, more certain. It carries weight, even though the tie itself is light. It's the sound of a promise being made and kept, a small action, but one that demands attention. It's easy to overlook the purpose behind the click. It's there to remind us that we've completed the task. There's no second guessing, no reconsidering. The zip tie is there, holding everything with a single definitive motion. The sound is like a small punctuation mark on a sentence that's already been written. Even when the tie serves no larger purpose, just securing some cables, perhaps it's a reminder of the systems we create in our everyday lives. Systems that move quietly but surely, creating order where there was none before. And the zip tie is a part of that. It holds it all together with one decisive click. Without much thought, most people never wonder why the sound is there at all. It's a part of the process, the ritual of tying something down. But in a way, it's a comfort, a reassurance that once something is done, it's done. There's no ambiguity. It's as clear and defined as that small sound. And that sound, it doesn't linger. It doesn't need to. It's like the snap of a branch breaking, or the ticking of a clock. The moment it's heard, everything that follows feels inevitable. The zip tie holds, the task is finished, and the world moves on. Maybe tomorrow you'll hear that sound again, or maybe you won't. Either way, the click will remain in the background, part of the quiet order we all rely on. It's there, waiting for its moment, waiting to remind us that some things, simple things, have a way of locking us into place. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply waits, and in the silence that follows, it's easy to forget how much of the world is held together by something so simple, so permanent. It's hard to remember a time when the plastic pizza saver wasn't part of the pizza experience. That little white tripod, so small and almost forgettable, has become a fixture of the pizza box, a silent participant in the meal. It sits there, without asking, between slices, just beneath the lid. The first time you noticed it, maybe it was just a quick glance. You probably thought it was just part of the box's design. A plastic piece, harmless, insignificant, like something meant to help with stacking or keeping the box from closing too tightly. You never really questioned it. Still, it had a purpose. It wasn't made just to look strange, to be a curiosity. The pizza saver was created for something far more specific, something most of us would never think about. That tiny plastic stand was actually designed to protect the pizza from touching the box. Even now, it's hard to believe something so small could prevent such an issue. But when you think about it, a fresh pizza is delicate. The cheese is soft, the toppings piled high. Without that little saver, the pizza would risk collapsing, the cheesy top sticking to the lid, ruining the carefully crafted pie. Without much thought, you may have dismissed its role. After all, it's just a piece of plastic. But in the early days, it was considered a simple but necessary innovation. This tiny support system was created to keep the pizza intact, to maintain its perfect, unspoiled surface as it journeyed to your door. The pizza saver was never meant to be a permanent part of the pizza experience, though it was a stopgap, a small design solution that solved a problem in the pizza delivery system. It wasn't about making the pizza look better. It was about ensuring that you could enjoy it as intended, untouched, unblemished. The shape, too, was deliberate. Its three-legged design allowed it to stand on the pizza without leaving any visible marks. It was a clever little thing, crafted not just for function, but for discretion. It didn't want to be noticed, didn't need to be. It was simply doing its job. You've probably eaten hundreds of pizzas, never giving that tiny piece of plastic much thought, but it's always been there, silently holding its ground. It's the quiet protector of the pizza, ensuring that no part of it gets marred by the box that contains it. A small but essential part of the process. Still, you might have wondered, how did this idea even come about? How did someone decide that this little tripod would solve such a simple, yet significant problem? It turns out that the pizza saver was a late 20th century innovation, a result of the growing popularity of pizza delivery, which brought its own set of challenges. Even now, the saver persists, even as pizza delivery and packaging have evolved. It might not be needed as much as it once was, with better packaging and more secure boxes, but the plastic pizza saver remains, stubbornly holding its place. A reminder of the past, still relevant in its quiet way. Without much thought, the saver becomes part of the ritual. You open the box, and there it is, like an old friend who never changes. Its purpose might have faded, but its presence is constant. It doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't need to. It's simply there in the background, doing its job. It's curious, really, how something so small, so seemingly insignificant, could hold such a place in our minds. Maybe it's because it represents a time when things were simpler. A time when small, practical solutions mattered, and little details made all the difference. It's a quiet echo of a world that paid attention to the small things. Perhaps in some way, the pizza saver is a symbol of efficiency, of finding the solution in the simplest place. It doesn't demand a second glance. It doesn't scream for attention. It simply sits there, quietly solving a problem that most people don't even notice. A job done, without ceremony. And yet, in its own way, the plastic pizza saver has become something of an icon. It's a part of the pizza experience that many of us take for granted, but it's been there all along. Its original purpose may be slipping away, but its role in the ritual remains steady. It simply waits. As time goes on, it may eventually be replaced by something newer, something better suited to modern pizza delivery. But even then, the image of the plastic saver will linger. In its simple, unassuming way, it has become a small part of history. A piece of pizza lore, frozen in time. Maybe you won't notice it tomorrow, or maybe it will catch your eye again. But whether you see it or not, the little pizza saver will always have a place in the quiet corners of our memories. It was never meant to be the star, just a quiet part of the meal, and yet it stays. There's something oddly satisfying about the feeling of an egg carton in your hands. The soft, almost comforting shape of it, a simple thing really. But when you look closer, you begin to realize it's been this way for a long time, a very long time. The cardboard is cool to the touch, the shape familiar, each space molded, each section cradling its delicate cargo. It feels almost like an afterthought, this design, this simple object. But beneath its humdrum appearance, there's an enduring quality that has withstood the test of time. 100 years, maybe more. Still, the egg carton looks much like it did a century ago. A subtle evolution, perhaps, but nothing drastic. The cardboard might be slightly stronger, the texture a little more refined, but when you strip away the modern touches, you're left with the same basic idea, a clever, unchanging design. You've seen it countless times, standing in the grocery aisle, pulling the carton from the shelf, the small rectangular shape with its neat rows, perfect spaces for each egg. And yet you rarely think about how, year after year, this design has remained almost untouched. Why hasn't it changed? The truth is, the egg carton works, it does its job, and it does it well. Even now, when so many things have transformed around it, the egg carton remains an enduring constant. It was designed with care, crafted to protect its fragile contents, and that's what it continues to do. Without much thought, you might take it for granted. The ridges that hold the eggs just so. The lid that closes securely. It's the sort of thing you don't question because it works, quietly, without fanfare. And in that quiet simplicity, there's a kind of perfection. Perhaps that's the secret behind its staying power. It doesn't need to impress, it doesn't need to change, it simply needs to hold the eggs, and in its plain, straightforward way, it excels at that. Sometimes, the best designs are the ones that do what they're meant to without fuss. Even now, standing at the kitchen counter, you might open the carton, pull out an egg, and not think twice about the structure holding it. It's just part of the process, part of the rhythm of your day. A ritual that's been the same for as long as you can remember, and yet the design has barely evolved. A few tweaks here and there, but nothing significant. No flashy updates, no bold reinventions. The egg carton has stuck to what it knows, like an old friend who never changes, always there when you need it. Think about it, 100 years. And yet the shape is still the same. It's not trying to be anything else. It's not competing with other packaging innovations. It simply exists quietly, as the perfect solution for a delicate need. Could there be a better testament to good design? Still, there have been some changes, small ones, if you look carefully. The material, for one, the shift from wood pulp to molded cardboard, creating a more durable shell, and yet still holding to that same idea. The eggs remain safe, nestled in their familiar gentle spots. Perhaps this is the beauty of it. A design that never sought to be flashy. The egg carton doesn't scream for attention. It simply does its job, even in a world where everything is being updated, upgraded, and revolutionized. The humble egg carton remains the same. In some ways, it feels like a quiet rebellion against the constant push for change. It refuses to be altered because it knows it doesn't need to be. It's enough as it is. It's simple, functional, and enduring. What more could it need? The next time you pick up a carton, pause for a moment. Notice the quietness in its design, the subtle ridges, the way the lid fits just so. It's a small object, yes, but in its smallness it speaks to something greater, the power of simple, lasting design. Maybe that's the trick. The egg carton doesn't try to impress. It doesn't attempt to be anything more than it is. It just exists, effortlessly, providing what it was meant to. And that quiet, unchanging presence becomes its greatest strength. Even after all this time, the egg carton continues to serve. It doesn't ask for recognition. And yet it gets it, simply by doing its job. Maybe that's the way all good design should be. Unobtrusive, lasting, and timeless. Without fanfare, just there when you need it. Tomorrow, when you reach for another carton, you might see it differently. You'll notice how little it's changed. You'll realize that in a world of constant transformation, this small object stands as a reminder that sometimes what works best is the simplest design. And so the egg carton waits, always there, always the same, like a quiet part of the world, holding steady in the midst of change. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need to. It simply endures, unremarkable yet perfect, in its still subtle way. The cold metal of the ATM, the sharp edges of its buttons, the soft hum of its mechanisms working beneath your fingertips. In the stillness of the night, it's just another moment, another transaction. But there's something else, something unexpected. The raised dots on the keypad, almost imperceptible unless you know they're there. Still, they are there, just beneath your fingers, a subtle message, a silent code waiting to be understood. They stand in sharp contrast to the sleek surface of the machine, a strange inclusion in a space so often associated with speed and efficiency. Yet the dots don't rush, don't push, they simply wait. The purpose is simple, yet quietly profound. Braille, designed for those who cannot see, marks the keys with the same precision as any visual label. It's a small gesture, A simple addition, but one that opens up the space, making it more inclusive, welcoming those who might otherwise feel excluded in this otherwise impersonal world of automated finance. Without much thought, you might brush past the raised markings. They are an afterthought, almost hidden, blending seamlessly with the machine's design. But for those who need them, they are not mere texture. They are the key to a moment of independence, a link between the user and their transaction, a whisper of accessibility. You've seen it, haven't you? The ATM screen lit up, flashing instructions you may never read, while you punch in your PIN code. And yet there's a world underneath it all, a world that has made space for something subtle, something designed not for speed, but for inclusion, something designed to be felt. Even now, when you approach a drive-through ATM, you might not immediately notice the raised dots beneath your fingers. It seems almost unnecessary. Why would someone need to feel their way through a cash withdrawal? And yet there's a quiet logic to it. It's not about the person in the moment, it's about the person who might need it tomorrow. Imagine being in a car, parked in front of the machine, needing to make a withdrawal, your hands unsure of the keypad, your eyes unable to navigate the digital world in front of you. In that instant, those subtle bumps on the surface become a bridge, a small but powerful act of inclusion. The design speaks to a need many overlook. The system is not designed for the majority. No, it's designed for those who need a space of their own within the busy pulse of modern life. The Braille marking on an ATM doesn't call attention to itself. It doesn't demand recognition. It just exists quietly, always ready, without expectation. As you approach, your hand may naturally drift toward the keys, your fingers grazing the smooth metal, but the dots are there, waiting, unnoticed yet present, their only purpose to make the world just a little easier for someone, somewhere. It's a quiet, invisible gesture, a recognition of something greater than the transaction itself. It's strange, isn't it? How something so small, so easily missed, can hold such weight. The world outside the ATM moves fast, a blur of transactions, of moments fleeting. But in this small, deliberate gesture, there is an understanding that not everyone moves the same way. Not everyone can read the screen. Not everyone has the same ease. Perhaps it's the simplicity that makes it profound. There's no need for explanation. No need to make a grand statement. The raised dots simply are. It's as though they've always been there, existing in the background, waiting for the right person to notice them. They don't interrupt. They don't demand. They simply help. And so, as you move on with your day, the ATM remains behind, its purpose fulfilled. The dots have done their work, unnoticed perhaps by most, but still there. There for the next person. There for the person who needs them, ready to provide a moment of ease in a world that moves so quickly. In the end, it's not about why the Braille is there. It's about the quiet certainty that it's there at all. It's about knowing that the world is just a little bit more navigable, a little bit more accessible for those who need it. A simple, quiet change in the design, and perhaps when it's most needed, you'll remember it too. It doesn't ask for recognition, but it never really leaves. You're holding a light bulb, feeling the cool glass in your hand. It's marked with a number, maybe 40, 60, or 100. That number doesn't tell you much, does it? It's an old number, one that used to mean more. You're not sure when you last thought about it, but it's still there, waiting. The watt, that simple, unassuming number. We've all been told to choose the right wattage, the right power to light up a room. But when was the last time you really stopped and thought about what that number meant? Even now you probably rely on it without question. Still, if you pause for a moment and look closely at your bulb, you might start to wonder. Watts are about power consumption. That's what they're meant to indicate, how much energy is being used to create light. But is that the most helpful thing when it comes to lighting up a room? When you think of brightness, you likely think of lumens. A lumen is a measure of the light output, the actual brightness that fills a space. And yet we're still measuring light in watts, as if energy use is more important than how much light actually shines from the bulb. It's strange, isn't it? Even now, the industry still clings to watts. It's a holdover from an earlier time when incandescent bulbs were the standard. The higher the wattage, the brighter the bulb seemed. Simple, straightforward. But those incandescent bulbs were inefficient, burning more power for the same amount of light. And we've moved on, haven't we? Fluorescent bulbs, LED bulbs, they don't work the same way. They're far more efficient, using far less power to produce the same amount of light. But the old habit remains. Wattage is still the number we look for, the number we trust, even when it no longer holds the full meaning it once did. You might not have noticed it, but there's a shift happening behind the scenes. In places where energy matters, they're talking more about lumens now. In fact, new bulbs often list both, lumens on one side, watts on the other. But the watt, that lingering number, it still clings to the surface. It's a ghost of an era past. Why do we still use watts, though? It's not like we haven't moved beyond the old days of incandescent bulbs. Fluorescent lights came along, and then LEDs, each one promising a brighter future with less waste. The technology has changed, and yet the watt keeps its place in the spotlight. Still, it feels comfortable, doesn't it? That number, it's familiar. It's the same number we've been seeing for years, even though it doesn't quite tell the whole story anymore. It's easy to grab a 60-watt bulb and think you know exactly what you're getting, without realizing that there's a whole new way of measuring brightness we could be using. You might even feel a strange comfort in sticking with watts. It's like a ritual, something that feels tried and true, even as the world changes around it. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's the best way. Maybe it's time we let go of watts and let lumens lead the way. It's a thought that seems to drift in the air. When you pick up a bulb now, you might glance at the box for both numbers. You might notice the lumens, just for a second. You might even feel a quiet understanding settling in. Still, the watt number stands tall, refusing to fade. There's a strange sense of reluctance in letting go of what we know. The thing is, the world is shifting. We've got more energy-efficient bulbs, ones that shine just as brightly, but use far less power. And the old standard is starting to fade. Though slowly, still, the watt is here, still claiming its space, still holding sway over the way we choose the light in our lives. Even now the watt sits there, quiet and unquestioned, waiting for us to finally acknowledge that it no longer tells the whole story. The change has happened, and yet we remain tethered to the past, clinging to a number that once mattered, but no longer defines the true essence of light. It's a curious thing. You might notice it next time, in the faint glow of the kitchen, or in the soft light of the bedroom, how the bulb still carries that number with it. But it's different now, and maybe, just maybe, you'll wonder why we haven't let go of the past yet. Why we still measure light in watts, not lumens. The truth is, it's easier to stick with the familiar. It's comfortable, even when it's not the best way. But the world moves forward, even if we don't always notice it, and so the watt lingers, like an old photograph tucked away in a drawer, quietly waiting to be replaced. Maybe you'll notice the change next time, or maybe you won't, but it's there, just out of sight. A small shift, one that most won't even think about. The number stays the same, but the world just beyond the edges continues to change. And perhaps, one day, the watt will simply fade away. Or maybe not. In the end, it doesn't matter much. The light will shine either way. It always does. Maybe you'll notice it tomorrow, or maybe you'll just leave the light on, as you always have. Either way, the watt remains, but in the quiet spaces between, something else is waiting.